What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was neglected until he unlocked the book of all jutsu? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments, and also check the description box to original creator of this beautiful creation. I wonder if they're hungry enough yet. Hitaki Kakashi mused as he turned his eyes upward, taking note of the position of the sun. About 8:30. Nah, I'll let them stew a while longer. He was walking through the shopping district, but despite the amazing weather and fresh, clean air, he was still feeling slightly apprehensive. This was to be the 7th team given to him these past years, and what a team it was. Uchiha Sasuke, 12, Obito's distant cousin and the sole loyal Uchiha left in the village. And boy, what an Uchiha he was. Top of his class. Great grades in all practical arts with the worst in cooperation. If the Chunin examiners that ran the academy were to be believed, he was the best thing since sliced bread. The boy certainly had potential, but he had his flaws. Widely praised and put on the genius pedestal by most who knew him in class, the boy had become arrogant. He was a loner and believed in doing things himself. He was an avenger, self-proclaimed, and would need to be knocked down several notches. He would likely find cooperation with his teammates difficult, and did not truly have the attitude of a Konoha ninja. Then there was the girl, Haruno Sakura, 12. What a case she was. She was probably one of the largest fangirls Kakashi ever had the misfortune to lay eyes on. She was in love with Sasuke, and likely had not put nearly as much effort into practicing the kunoichi arts as she had making her Sasuke shrine. She also had potential. The examiners from the academy had showered praise on her for her intelligence and control over her chakra. That was perfect for Iryo Nin training, or perhaps even Genjutsu. They also claimed she had random spouts of much greater strength than normal and somehow, periods where she was more outspoken than usual. Unfortunately, the girl had no chakra reserves to speak of. She likely would get tired after only a few minutes of tree walking. While she was said to also hit decently hard, taijutsu was also not her strong point. She weakened her body with her idiotic dieting. She would likely end up being the weak link in their examination. Then there was the last one. Uzumaki Naruto, 14, his sensei's son. By all rights, he was the one Kakashi had to worry about the least. On paper, Naruto was an abysmal ninja. His written test scores were garbage. His taijutsu barely deserved to be called such. His ability to cast genjutsu was non-existent, even if he seemed to be able to ignore their effects entirely somehow. His only upsides, according to the academy, were his ninjutsu, which was decent. He could use the kawarimi and the henge especially to great effect, and his stealth, which was absolutely absurd. Kakashi himself had been on the receiving end of that during his Anbu stint. But Kakashi prided himself on being a ninja who looked underneath the underneath. Naruto's record felt wrong. First, there were his 3 failures to graduate. Each and every single time Naruto failed to graduate, it was because of the same technique, the bunshin. The regular clone jutsu was widely regarded as the easiest of the 3 core academy techniques. Despite that fact, Naruto was fully capable of using the other 2 while being unable to use the most basic. And Naruto had managed to pass this year, despite originally failing, and he did it by learning the Kage Bunshin. In 2 hours. If that wasn't enough, he went on to cripple a traitorous Chunin. Kakashi couldn't have had any more red flags waving around in his head if Naruto had come in wearing one on his head. His quick learning of that technique told Kakashi 2 things. Naruto must have an absolutely insane amount of chakra and likely wouldn't grow tired even if the exam went on for the whole day. Well, not chakra exhausted anyway. Physical exhaustion was another, though his endurance had also been pointed out in his file. It also told him that he was an absurdly fast kinesthetic learner. No, what truly set Kakashi off was his crippling of Mizuki. Traitor and moron he may have been, Mizuki was still a Chunin specifically selected to teach at the academy. They didn't simply pick names out of a hat. This, Kakashi mused, could mean either one of 2 things. Either Naruto held back during the academy or he had been held back. Kakashi doubted the second was the case, because even the stupidest demon hater wouldn't think to blatantly defy the Hokage in his own academy. No, Naruto likely was much stronger than he let on, and Kakashi resolved to not let himself get caught off guard. Kakashi arrived silently and observed his students to be. Sasuke was sitting on top of a stump, eyes twitching every so often. He looked about as furious as a stoic loner could. He wore a blue shirt with an oversized neck, with another long-sleeved white shirt under it. He had plain off-white shorts with a kunai pouch tied to his right leg. His hite-8 was tied around his forehead, making his really dark blue, almost black, hair take up a really unfortunate shape. Naruto was lounging with his back to a different post, and his hands behind his head. He looked like he didn't have a care in the world. He had orange pants that appeared to be too short for him, and an orange, blue, and white jacket. He looked like an orange paint can had vomited on him, to be honest. He was using his hite-8 as a belt, and his spiky, blonde, longish hair was flowing lightly in the breeze. He was the largest of the trio, being older for one. He was much taller, though shorter than Kakashi himself, and much more muscular. Sakura was wearing a red kunoichi dress with dark greenish spandex shorts underneath. Her hite-8 was on top of her head, framing her, frankly too luscious, pink hair nicely. She looked to be the hungriest of the trio. Kakashi had to bite back a groan when he realized that the foolish girl probably skipped dinner the previous night on top of breakfast that morning. Well, he figured he'd made them wait long enough. "Hello everyone," he said cheerfully. "You're late." Kakashi had to hold back a groan of pain as both Naruto and Sakura roared at him. Boy, the two of them certainly had a nice set of lungs. "Ma, sorry. A black cat crossed my path so I had to take the long way around," he exclaimed with an inward chuckle. Sakura was almost spitting in rage at the comment. "Liar," she screamed. Her two teammates weren't much better. Kakashi winced. Well, enough time wasting. If glares could kill, Kakashi was fairly certain he'd already be dead, salted, and put in a freezer somewhere. He smiled at the three. "So, your test is to get these." He showed them two shiny silver bells dangling on a string. "Bells from me by any means possible. You have until noon." He grinned evilly, deciding to get them back for Sakura's screeching. "Anyone who doesn't have a bell by noon not only will be tied to a log and sent back to the academy for another year, but will also have to watch as I eat their lunch." The tension in the clearing skyrocketed as the statement hit them. They stared at him in disbelief, not quite sure what to say. Then, it was broken by two loud rumbles echoing in the clearing, from the angry stomachs of a blushing Sakura and a twitching Sasuke. Naruto looked at the two in disbelief. "Did you two really not eat anything before showing up?" "Man, and they call me the idiot," he cackled, pointing and laughing at the two. Sasuke joined Sakura in flushing angrily. "I believe I told you not to eat," Kakashi said menacingly, though inwardly he was elated that at least one of them hadn't followed his rules to the letter. Maybe there was some hope for this dysfunctional group after all. "And I ignored it," Naruto said cheerfully. What kind of moron would knowingly go into a dangerous situation hungry and with no energy? He gained a look as if he'd just had an epiphany, slapping his right fist into his left palm in realization. "Oh right. These idiots." He resumed laughing his head off. Kakashi grinned inwardly and decided to stir the pot a bit more. He smiled and exclaimed, "I know right? I didn't think any of you would actually follow that stupid order." Sakura and Sasuke especially looked like steamed lobsters, glaring at the two of them furiously. Sasuke's teeth were audibly grinding. "Well, let's get on with it." Kakashi chuckled as he tied the bells to his belt. "Oh, and you might want to come at me with the intent to kill. Otherwise none of you will get a bell." Sakura gasped, "But sensei, what if you get hurt?" Kakashi inwardly facepalmed. "Don't you worry about that. Now, beg." "But sensei, there are only 2 bells." Sakura cut in again, having broken from her angry embarrassment long enough to notice that fact. Kakashi grinned evilly. "I guess that means at least one of you is getting sent back to the academy." Sasuke and Sakura's gazes hardened, while Naruto yawned disinterestedly. "Ready, STA." He cut himself off as he casually slammed Sasuke into the ground with his arm twisted behind his back. "I don't believe I said go yet," he said cheerfully as he twisted Sasuke's arm rather harshly. Naruto looked interested and was grinning, while Sakura let out a distressed cry of, "Sasuke-kun," as the boy groaned in pain. Kakashi let the boy go finally, and he climbed to his feet rubbing his sore arm. "Now, go." 2 of the ninja to be leapt away rapidly, looking to put as much distance as possible between them and their crazy teacher. They've hidden well. Kakashi mused. I know where they are, of course, but a mid-level chunin would likely have some issues finding them, except. He turned a queer eye to Naruto, who was just standing there, resplendent in his orange pants and his eyesore of an orange, blue, and white jacket. You're a little off, you know. He said conversationally to the oldest of his students. Naruto cracked his neck to the side. Yeah, I don't feel like playing hide and seek right now. He grinned and tore off his orange jacket, leaving his torso clad only in a tight ninja mesh shirt. He also had some metal bracers on his arms. Elsewhere, Sakura blushed furiously as she gaped at Naruto's torso in shock. Holy crap. Naruto is hot. When the hell did that happen? Naruto's back was to her, so she couldn't see the large seal seemingly tattooed on top of Naruto's abdomen, but she could see his tightly muscled back. He wasn't a bodybuilder by any means, but he clearly took care of himself. Damn that ugly jacket. Cha. Her inner self cursed, and she mumbled silently with a slight nosebleed. I still love Sasuke-kun, but I wouldn't have minded seeing that much eye candy every day. Kakashi on the other hand, eyed the proudly displayed seal on his abs. You sure you should be showing that off? Naruto shrugged. If they can't handle the truth, then I don't really need them. I am who I am. Kakashi smiled slightly, glad to see that his harsh younger years hadn't proven too much for the bundle of joy he had watched over. Well, he smirked and reached into his equipment pouch. Elsewhere, Sasuke and Sakura stiffened as they watched him reach for a weapon. Both facepalmed as he took out an orange book and started reading. Whenever you're ready then. Naruto's eye twitched violently. Oh, you are going to regret that. He grinned evilly. You better not take me lightly, Scarecrow. Kakashi waved his hand nonchalantly. Ma, I just want to know what happens next. It won't matter against you guys anyway. Now, if there was one thing that got Naruto's gears grinding, it was being taken lightly. With a growl, glowing golden chains made out of pure chakra burst from his back and rapidly speared towards the shocked Kakashi. The older man would forever deny yelping, but for a second it was not Uzumaki Naruto who he was facing. His book found itself back in his pouch in the blink of an eye and he dodged as fast as he could. The barbed-tipped chains speared into the earth with loud crunches and gouged trenches into the earth as if it was water. Dirt exploded into the air as the chain cut through it, sending clumps of grass flying. Kakashi landed, and was forced to evacuate from his location as a second chain speared through from behind. Kakashi's jump took him closer to Naruto, who grinned viciously. The teenager charged, looking to engage with a haymaker as soon as Kakashi landed. Kakashi almost shook his head in disappointment. That wasn't even Academy Taijutsu. He landed, rapidly getting within Naruto's guard and unleashed a vicious body punch into his young student's gut. But instead of bending over with spittle flying out of his mouth as Kakashi had anticipated for the amount of force he put into it, the boy barely grunted. Instead, he smirked viciously as his right hand shot forward and grabbed the back of Kakashi's neck. Instantly, his leg muscles coiled and his knee exploded forward, driving itself into the large log Kakashi had substituted with. Naruto sputtered as he waved the newly made sawdust away from his face, coughing slightly. He looked around, and Kakashi was nowhere in sight. His eye twitched. I thought I said I wasn't in the mood for hide and seek. He roared as he drew his leg up and slammed his foot into the ground. Sakura screamed as the earthquake Naruto had caused knocked her straight out of the tree she had been hiding in. She moaned as she rubbed her head in pain. She shook herself with a gasp and took her perch again, more carefully anchored this time. She gaped as soon as the dust cleared. Where once had been nice, green grass, there now was a deep, couple-meter-wide crater. And sitting at the bottom was a crouching, wide-eyed Kakashi, holding his hands over his head ridiculously as if he had been swimming through the earth. Nearby, Sasuke Uchiha was apoplectic with rage. What the hell is this? He growled to himself. That's the dead last. How the hell is he this strong? He ground his teeth together harshly enough to be painful. Where the hell did he get this power? I'm the one who needs it. I must kill that man. Inside the newly made crater, Kakashi was staring at his student, slightly nonplussed. That wasn't chakra enhanced, he thought blithely. Right, don't get hit. He stood from his weird pose and patted himself off nonchalantly. So, I was right. You did fake your strength in the academy. he said conversationally. Naruto blinked at him. No, I didn't. I failed 3 times for real. My taijutsu is garbage. I'm just really strong. Of course, I couldn't show that off. Couldn't break one of the poor civilians. I'd probably get in trouble. Kakashi could swear he felt a violin string snap inside his head. You expect me to believe that? He asked dubiously, give me at least some credit. A complete failure couldn't have made a crater that size, nor could they have used the chakra chains like that. Nor, for that matter, would they have known where I was. He spoke slowly, as if to a small child. Naruto chuckled, not my fault the academy is full of idiots. He grinned, the largest portion of the final exam in the Bunshin. Not sure why, seeing as how it's the easiest of the 3. If you asked me to make a regular clone, I still wouldn't be able to do it. Kakashi counted to 5 in his head with his eyes closed. You legitimately failed the academy because of the Bunshin? He deadpanned. Naruto laughed, I'm a fucking Uzumaki. Even without that, I would have had trouble with that technique. I could break a nail and lose more chakra than that stupid, useless technique needs. Kakashi took a deep breath, but that doesn't mean you can't pass. One of last year's teams has a student with absolutely no talent in ninjutsu or genjutsu. If your other skills shine, you can still be passed through with an exception. Naruto's grin froze on his face. Then it shattered. What? He asked flatly. Kakashi nodded. Granted, you have to catch the eye of a more experienced ninja and have them vouch for your potential, but it is a very reasonable method of passing. Naruto's began to twitch violently. You're telling me I wasted 2 fucking years in that boring hellhole when I could have already been a ninja? His teeth ground together. Kakashi's sweat dropped. Looks like it. Naruto's twitching increased in intensity. Kakashi unknowingly rubbed salt in the wound with his next statement. Your strength alone could have caught the eye of a taijutsu specialist. Naruto exploded in rage, while a certain fox was howling in laughter inside his head. He stomped off, golden chakra visible around him as he disappeared into the trees. Then, a loud rumble echoed through the field as a trio of trees collapsed following loud thuds. The loud impacts they made as they crashed to the dirt made Sakura wince over in her hiding spot. Kakashi blinked. Was it something I said? He asked the air innocently. He then nonchalantly stuck 2 of his fingers into the tiny shuriken that had been moments from impacting his body, stopping them in their tracks. Sasuke exploded out from his cover and engaged Kakashi in a violent taijutsu duel. It immediately became clear to Kakashi that, while Sasuke was extremely skilled, his current unexplained rage was hindering Sasuke far more than it was aiding him. He was faster and hitting harder, for sure, even if it was barely noticeable to a jonin as strong as Kakashi. But he was also overextending and putting far more energy into his attacks than he should have. Growling as his fingers brushed against the bells, Sasuke reached just a bit more but was violently kicked away by Kakashi. Spit flew from his mouth as he impacted the floor and rolled thrice before scrambling to his feet. He growled, "You'll find I'm different than that loser." He yelled, and began putting hand signs together. Kakashi's eyes widened. He has the chakra for this? He mused in surprise. Sasuke roared, "Kaden! Gokakyu no Jutsu!" A large fireball, bigger than both of them combined in fact, screamed out of Sasuke's mouth. Kakashi's eyes widened, before it impacted him and exploded. When the smoke cleared, Sasuke clicked his teeth at seeing the man missing. Left? Right? Above? His eyes widened, as he moved to jump away, but it was too late. Try below. Kakashi's eyes smiled at him from above. He was crouching in front of the boy with his orange book open. Doden. Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu success. The boy, who was buried up to his neck in the dirt, growled at him, "You were right." He mused idly, "You were different." Naruto got to walk away. Sasuke snarled, "Let me out of here." Kakashi giggled perversely, "Oh, Mitsuki-chan, you're so naughty." He walked away, uncaring of his student's predicament. Sasuke struggled mightily, muscles straining ineffectually. He groaned and gave up for the moment, sighing. Then he stiffened and looked around as best he could. There were largish ants crawling near him, and it appeared that he'd unsettled one of their nests. They looked angry. Sasuke growled, "I hate him." "Sup, asshole," Naruto said cheerfully, getting a growl out of the buried boy. Sasuke had a few red bite marks on his face and neck, but had come up with a way of putting fire chakra around his hold to stop the ants from coming closer once more. Naruto got behind Sasuke and reached into the ground as easily as if it had been water, grabbing the boy by the armpits. With a small grunt, Naruto wrenched Sasuke from his prison. "Man, Scarecrow did a number on you." He chuckled. Sasuke swallowed his pride and anger with a struggle, and mumbled a quick, "Thanks." "Don't mention it, asshole." Sasuke's eyebrow twitched. "Now, let's go find Sakura so we can get a plan together," Naruto said, beginning to send out his senses to locate the girl. He was interrupted by Sasuke's derisive scoff. Naruto turned to the boy, eyebrow raised, making Sasuke explain himself. "I touched the bells with no help from you," he said acerbically. "I don't need any help. I'll get it on my own. You two will just slow me down." Naruto snorted. "First the breakfast and now this? I thought I was the idiot." Naruto shot back, making Sasuke glare at him. "The bells are just a distraction, you moron. You're a clan kitty. You should know that. Konoha values teamwork and friendship very highly. The only ninja in the village that are allowed to operate completely solo are the ninja rated A+ to S. Even regular A-class ninja need at least a single partner. Hell, even the Sannin rolled as a three-man team for the majority of their careers. This isn't about getting the bells at all. It's about working together and putting aside our differences. Now stop wasting time and let's get Sakura." Sasuke looked like he was trying to burn a hole through Naruto with his death glare. But before he could lay into Naruto, Sakura burst from the bushes. "Sasuke-kun." "Naruto, I found you." Naruto grinned. "Perfect. I was just about to grab the asshole and drag him over to find you." "You hear what I said?" Sakura nodded hesitantly. She would normally have called him out on his term for her Sasuke-kun, but she was slightly afraid of his strength. "Good. Now let's get a plan going. You any good at genjutsu?" Sakura shook her head. "I have the chakra control for it, or so the instructors said, but none of them got around to actually teaching me any." Naruto frowned. "Shit," he cursed. "Alright, Sakura, no offense, but you don't have anything to offer in straight combat that Sasuke and I can't do better currently." Sakura winced, and really wanted to rebuke him, but his earlier display had really shaken her confidence. Naruto poked her forehead, getting a glare out of her. "So here's what I want you to do. Stay out of the way and take potshots with kunai when you get any openings. Set traps where you can. I'll be able to sense you and try to corral Kakashi towards them. Throw regular bunshin into the mix to try to throw Kakashi off." He used a strange hand seal neither of the two younger shinobi had ever seen before. A cross shape with his index and middle fingers laid over each other, Kage Bunshin. Two identical clones of Naruto appeared, causing Sakura's jaw to drop and Sasuke's eyes to widen. "These are solid clones. And yeah, they're the reason I was finally able to pass the final exam." "No, I can't teach you. It's forbidden. Moving on," he said, a note of finality in his tone. "When you send your bunshin in, send them in as well. They'll also be setting traps up." Both clones cried, "Henge," and turned into Sakura. Sakura smiled. "You're not as dumb as the academy made you out to be. This is actually a fairly decent plan so far," she said, almost shyly. Naruto laughed. "You'd be dead last as well if you showed up for a few classes a month. Like hell I'm going to sit through the same boring lectures I had to sit the year before, and the year before that." Sasuke sneered. "Maybe that's why you failed 2 years in a row." He shot snidely. He was honestly just being difficult due to having his, to him, rightful command usurped. Naruto's eye twitched. "Sasuke, how much chakra do you have left?" He ignored the snipe. "Just over half." Sasuke replied, "And why should we listen to you, dead last? Why am I not the leader?" Sakura was really torn. On one hand, she loved Sasuke-kun. On the other, Naruto had come up with a legitimately good role for her and even aided them in coming up with part of a plan. Naruto eyed him, utterly unimpressed. "I know where you live," he said finally, a sly smirk forming on his laps. A shiver ran down Sasuke's spine. "So if you don't stop being a jackass, tomorrow you're going to wake up naked in the town square, covered in lube. Not only that, but I'll put signs pointing to the square saying, 'Naked Sasuke this way,' in front of the houses of all of your fangirls for them to find you." Sasuke's face paled drastically. In fact, it appeared as if all the blood in his face had drained into Sakura's face, since she had turned scarlet as he had turned to the color of milk. Let's not be too hasty now. He would forever deny, his voice breaking at the threat. He shook himself. We're wasting time. We'll settle this later. He finally growled out as a promise. Naruto smirked back. Now you're talking my language. He grinned. Now, try not to use any jutsu that are too chakra intensive. Both of us will be trying to herd Kakashi towards Sakura and the traps. While the bells aren't important, they'll likely earn us some brownie points. If any of us can grab them without putting any of the others in danger, take the chance. Just make sure we're clear, otherwise I have a feeling Kakashi will fail us even if we get them. Alright, dead last. We'll try it your way. Sasuke couldn't help but be an asshole, even if it was an okay plan. Naruto smirked. Alright, he grinned. Now I can go wild. Let's go. He yelled and shocked the two with his next act. He turned into an absolutely massive tiger. Its shoulders were at least a head taller than Sasuke and it looked utterly ferocious. Sakura could be excused if her knees shook, and even Sasuke had paled. The tiger turned and ran, putting hundreds of meters between it and its two teammates in a blink. It was fast. Sakura swallowed. I think I will just never piss him off. Sasuke didn't reply, taking off after the blonde. Sakura shook herself and moved, the two solid clones of her following, smirks on their own faces as well. Kakashi was standing in the middle of the clearing giggling at his book. Or at least that was his outward appearance. He was slightly more interested in the fact that he could sense that all three of his students were together. And they had been together for a fair amount of time too. Surely this of all teams hadn't figured out his exam? Suddenly, his eyes widened as he felt Naruto pull away from the other two and beeline straight for him far faster than he had any right to. He had just barely managed to put his book away when he saw a giant fucking tiger burst from the woods and close the distance. He didn't even have time to gasp in surprise before he was dodging a paw bigger than his entire head with gleaming, deadly claws aiming to take said head right off his neck. He rolled under the attack and they both slid, turning immediately. Naruto's momentum had him digging clawed trenches into the dirt as he slid to a halt, before he sprang forward again. Kakashi jumped into the air to put some distance between them and was immediately set upon by Sasuke, who had caught up as quickly as he could and engaged Kakashi in a mid-air shuriken duel. Shuriken flashed and screeched as they impacted on another, the metal-on-metal contact throwing sparks up as they fell uselessly to the floor. Gravity proved that it was still alive and kicking as they slowly fell to the ground. As soon as Kakashi's feet touched the ground, he was forced to jump towards Naruto as a chain speared out of the ground, tip poised to pierce his left lung. He landed close, Naruto immediately trying to follow up with a right cross. Kakashi ducked under it and then vanished in a blur of speed as the chain caught up with him. The chain speared right into Naruto's abdomen, but rather than puncturing, it simply fused back into his body, growing shorter as more chain links vanished. Kakashi reappeared and engaged Sasuke once more in a taijutsu duel, this time putting himself at a slightly higher pace to see how his student would react. Sasuke grit his teeth as he struggled to keep up with the faster Kakashi and, as soon as he had some breathing room, took out a kunai reverse grip in his left hand. He swiped at Kakashi, even as some sweat dripped from his nose. Kakashi dodged and grabbed his arm, throwing him away. Naruto engaged him before Sasuke's arm had even fully left his hand with yet another telegraphed punch. Kakashi almost rolled his eyes, wanting to chide his student for being so predictable. The words froze on his tongue at the nasty grin on Naruto's lips. His hand opened and a red powder exploded forward in a cloud. Kakashi wrenched his eyes shut, too close to dodge, and was immensely grateful for his amazing mask. Chili powder. This little bastard. He kicked Naruto away rather harshly in retaliation, and a quick application of chakra from the tenketsu on his face blew the powder away. The two boys had been attempting to herd him towards the forest the whole time, and he had allowed them to do so. He was rather curious about what they had come up with. When Sasuke threw a shuriken, he jumped back rather than just casually moving his head slightly to the left. When he landed, now within the tree line, he purposefully tripped a wire. His eyes actually widened as half a dozen paint cans swung from the tree limbs looking to shower him in a rainbow of sticky paint. They were even arranged in such a way that his only option was to jump backwards. When he landed, he immediately heard a click and a bang. He glanced left and right as cannons fired some whitish, slimy-looking fluid towards his location from both sides. He leapt up, turning upside down and sticking to the tree limb. "Is that birthing lube?" He was actually forced to speak up in sheer incredulity, suddenly recognizing the fluid from his own genin days. He swore he heard all three genin snort in laughter. The next trap was of the less comedic variety as dual tree stumps swung on ropes. Kakashi leapt away as the large wooden instruments of death pulverized the branch he'd been on into fine dust. Then, much to Kakashi's surprise, he was set upon by Sakura. He wasn't very worried about regular Bunshin, so he allowed their attacks through. One of the Sakura jumped through him and he paid it no mind. That one even had a shadow. He thought to himself, slightly impressed. Then, his eyes widened as he caught a grin on Naruto just out of the corner of his eye. That made him realize with some shock that the next Sakura was very much solid and she had a very un-Sakura-like evil grin on her face. He backflipped rapidly as the ground where his fist hit exploded, dirt racing to catch up to his flying form. He was now out of the trees and back onto the clearing, finding that he did not, in fact, want to play with any more traps. Even before he landed, he was once more facing a shower of shuriken from Sasuke, and more clones of Sakura were congregating at his landing location. Forming a clone of his own beside him, the clone grabbed his arm and flung him left to the river. Naruto grinned at his path and transformed into the tiger again. He raced forward and jumped into the drink. Kakashi landed on the water and stood on it, warily watching for the tiger to emerge. Only what burst from the water was not a tiger but a hippo. This time, Kakashi couldn't help his girlish squeal, though he would forever deny it. He hated hippos. Their mouths were way too big. Ever since he'd nearly been swallowed by one in his youth during a fairly routine mission, he'd developed a fairly rational hatred for them. So he could be excused for creating a wry bunshin and pushing it into the beast's gaping maw. The hippo crunched down on the Kakashi clone, killing it instantly and releasing an insane burst of electricity. Sasuke and Sakura were forced to shield their eyes from the bright light show and were quickly taken out by Kakashi. Naruto groaned as he climbed out of the river and rolled onto his back. He looked kind of crispy and breathed out a puff of smoke. Ow! He was about to struggle to his feet when the alarm rang. Kakashi breathed a sigh. He gathered the two unconscious genin at his feet and called Naruto over. The blonde limped over at first, but had started to walk normally by the time he reached the stump Kakashi had set the alarm and lunches on. Kakashi waited a few moments for Sasuke and Sakura to wake up. "Welcome back, sleeping beauties," he said cheerfully. Sasuke groaned as he sat up and Sakura looked incredibly down. "We didn't get a bell," she said sadly. Sasuke grit his teeth. Naruto rolled his eyes. He'd already told them that the bells weren't important. Kakashi chuckled and got up, walking over to a large stone sticking out of the ground. "Do you know what this stone is?" Two of the three genin to be shook their heads. "No sensei, what is it?" Sakura asked. Kakashi sighed, looking melancholically at the stone. "This is a memorial. A memorial to the village's greatest heroes," he exclaimed. "My best friend's name is on this stone. My own sensei's name is on this stone. My last teammate's name is on this stone. My mother's name is on this stone," he said. He turned his suddenly steely gaze to his students. "Every single name on this stone marks a sacrifice, for they died for their country in the line of duty." That brought the mood down like a rock dropped in a river. Naruto stood up and walked over to Kakashi. Kakashi's eyes widened as he saw Naruto caress two names in particular. "Yeah, I've got a few on here as well." He gently traced the name Uzumaki Kushina. "But they aren't gone. They entrusted Konoha to us, right?" he said, smiling slightly as he took his seat on the stump once more. Kakashi smiled gently. "Indeed." He stared at his three students. "Remember this. Those who break the rules are trash, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash," he said strongly. "You three may not have gotten the bells, but you worked together as a team. You were able to put aside your differences even after I tried to turn you against one another." He chuckled. 7 years I've been testing teams. 7 years I've sent them back to the academy, retaking my place in the Anbu for the year, because not a single team ever cared for more than themselves. Not like you three. You were able to set aside your personal interests and resolved to work together to complete a task that would have otherwise been impossible to complete on your own. Even when I gave second and third chances, my previous teams were always more concerned with themselves than their unit. Everyone else continued blindly fighting until the final bell without even sparing a second thought to their teammates. He grinned, "You are rough, but I can work with rough. It would be boring otherwise." Team 7 passes. Yes. Sakura cheered, jumping up and pumping her fist. Sasuke merely smirked and crossed his arms. What do you know? The dead last was right. He thought to himself. Now. Kakashi clapped his hands. I would like an explanation, Naruto-kun. Your file said that you were the worst student the academy had seen in years. Please, give me something. I refuse to believe the academy is actually that stupid. Sasuke and Sakura leaned in eagerly, wanting to know why the dead last was so much more skilled than he appeared. Naruto shrugged with a smirk. Don't look at me. Not my fault the academy is useless. They're so focused on churning out ninja that they apparently forgot that we're individuals instead of dough they can take a cookie cutter too. He laughed. My taijutsu is garbage. The academy style is designed to be balanced in all regards, and more defensive than offensive. It doesn't match me in any way. Too stiff and predictable. So they failed me on that. They never even gave me a chance to show off my strength. They don't test for that. My written scores and attendance are garbage, because I couldn't be bothered to show up to listen to the same boring lectures a third time. Then they go and make the bunshin the most heavily weighed portion of the final exam, despite it being the easiest of the 3 techniques to learn. What does it matter if my henge is beyond perfect? I can't use regular bunshin because it literally requires a smaller amount of chakra than I can separate. Put it all together and you have a dead last. He finished, smirking at Sasuke while he did so. Sasuke looked furious and slightly worried that maybe he wasn't the top dog from their class. However, if he looked mad then it was nothing compared to Kakashi. Kakashi was quite literally steaming mad. Sakura inched away from him carefully. He took a calming breath. With how utterly wrong your file is, my first act as your sensei will be to evaluate the 3 of you. I can't trust any of your files, so I will see for myself where you stand. Finish eating so we can begin, he ordered. Sasuke perked up, though Sakura wilted a bit. They ate rapidly and Kakashi called Sakura up first. Sakura was placed 3rd in the academy overall for the girls. She was very intelligent, according to the instructors, and had precise control over her chakra. Kakashi decided to start with that. Alright Sakura-chan, please flare your chakra as much as you can. Keep it internalized so you don't waste any of it. The girl nodded nervously and started doing as her sensei instructed. Kakashi stared at her, feeling her chakra levels closely. He was not happy. I can see why your instructors said you had perfect chakra control. Sakura smiled. Now, hit me as hard as you can. After that hit, we will have a spar. Do your best. Sakura gulped, but nodded, settling into a textbook academy taijutsu stance. She let out a battle cry and burrowed her fist as hard as she could into her sensei's midsection. He was surprised at how much force she managed to put into it. It was far more than he expected. Even still, he barely even grunted. Immediately, he engaged her at genin speed with standard taijutsu. He then downgraded and kept himself to her level after seeing that she could not keep up with standard genin speed and technique. To his growing disappointment, within 5 minutes she was gasping for breath despite not having taken a single hit. He stopped the spar and gave her a moment to rest. Now, all 3 of the basic academy techniques, and then flare your chakra once more for me. Sakura nodded happily and used all 3 techniques in quick succession, and then flared her chakra some more. It had dropped noticeably and considerably. He smiled kindly at her. Anything else you have to show me? Some jutsu you learned on your own perhaps? Sakura shook her head. No, I'm done sensei. She smiled hesitantly at him. Kakashi nodded. Inwardly, he was already plotting out the best locations at the academy to soak in oil for a nice fire. He turned to the dark-haired one of the group. Sasuke, you're up. Same as Sakura. Sasuke's chakra reserves were good for a fresh genin, but his control of it was not. He forced tiny wisps of light blue chakra out while flaring, that all 3 of the others could see. They were faint, but there. All in all, his chakra strength and control were at a decent starting point. He had roughly 10 times the amount Sakura had. Then came the taijutsu portion. Unlike Sakura, Sasuke did not use the standard academy taijutsu. Instead, he used the classic Uchiha style, which was far more acrobatic and intensive. Though he lacked his Sharingan, he was already fairly predictive, and he was way faster and stronger than a fresh genin who did not focus solely on taijutsu had any right to be. Kakashi matched him at high genin level and worked him for about half an hour until he finally collapsed for a breather. However, he started getting rather sloppy roughly 20 minutes in, even if he lasted the full half hour. Kakashi gave him a minute to breathe and compose himself. Very nicely done, Sasuke. Now, the Academy 3 and any extra techniques you wish to show off. Sasuke smirked and turned to the posts nearby. Racing through a set of hand seals, he ended with Tiger and called out, Kaden. Hozenka no Jutsu. He spat out 11 smallish fireballs. They impacted the post harshly and exploded, breaking the bark slightly. Some, however, were hiding shuriken, which dug sharply into the wood. You also saw the Gokakyu. He finished smugly. Kakashi smiled indulgently. Good, now flare your chakra again for me, and you're finished. Sasuke did so, and noticed that his chakra pool had dipped about a third. He was pretty wasteful with such a low-rank technique. Sasuke smirked at Naruto and took his seat. Naruto rolled his eyes and walked up nonchalantly. Sure you want me to do the chakra flare, Scarecrow? We don't need to frighten the kiddies. He shot directly at Sasuke, even if he wasn't looking at him. The Uchiha growled lowly, and even Sakura gave him a mild glare. Kakashi chuckled lightly. Yes, you need to do the chakra flare. I need to see how much you have to work with. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Don't say I didn't warn you. Wham! All three of the other members of Team 7 felt as if they had taken a direct hit to the sternum. Sakura flung herself into the post she was sitting against and tried to push deeper into it, kicking her legs ineffectually at the ground. She gasped, trying to get some air. Sasuke wasn't much better off. He had broken into a flop sweat immediately, and trembled slightly. Only Kakashi was unruffled outwardly as he watched Naruto's chakra literally flare golden in the wind. It looked like golden fire surrounded the boy, pulsing wildly. Inwardly was a different matter. He has 10 times as much chakra as I do. Frankly, that pissed him off a bit. Everyone knew his chakra pool was his biggest weakness. He caught a smug grin on Naruto's face as they stared at each other, as if he was saying, yeah, I have more chakra than you. What you going to do about it? Naruto cut off the flow. Sakura gasped for air and began coughing, and Sasuke stopped trembling. However, both were looking at their third teammate in shock. Kakashi coughed lightly. Well, that certainly was a display. Sakura sputtered, that's all you have to say. I felt like I was going to die, and he wasn't even directing it at me. Kakashi shrugged, you get used to it. Being able to shrug off feelings like that is a vital part of being a high-level ninja. You cannot allow yourself to become intimidated. Or at least not outwardly intimidated. He turned towards the smug-looking Naruto. Kid, you have a lot of chakra. No wonder you can't make bunshin. Now, taijutsu. Defend yourself. With that, Kakashi took off and actually engaged one of his students for the first time. It immediately became very clear to Kakashi that Naruto hadn't been making things up. His taijutsu was awful. His defenses were full of holes and he overextended very often. However, on the flip side, his lack of taijutsu prowess proved to be a boon for Kakashi, because he was able to actually see how tough the older boy was. Kakashi nailed him harshly many times, trying to see if he could put Naruto down. He even nailed him at half of his full strength a number of times, and Naruto just shrugged the harsh blows, which would have broken Sakura in half, off like they were flies. He was incredibly resilient, so Kakashi switched tactics and tried to go for grappling. He very rapidly discovered that he had made a mistake, because he finally found something Naruto was good at taijutsu-wise. His attempted hip toss was stopped cold as Naruto utilized his superior strength to reverse the hold and almost nailed Kakashi with a suplex. Kakashi rapidly used Kawarimi to escape. He may as well have tried to wrestle a bear. Naruto laughed, we may as well wrap this up if you've seen that. Yes, my taijutsu is as bad as the academy said. If you're testing my endurance like you did for the other two, we'll be here all week. Sasuke could probably have powdered some nails with the amount of grinding he was doing with his teeth. Kakashi forced a chuckle, yeah, I've seen enough. Any other secrets you want to share with the class? I've been trying to teach myself how to do fuinjutsu, but other than that you've seen everything. Naruto replied. Kakashi was intrigued. Fuinjutsu, huh? That's a very rare art. I'm one of the only ones in Konoha capable of it currently. Show me. Naruto dropped to his knees and had a small, portable sealing station out immediately. It was ramshackle and probably had been self-built, but it would do the job, Kakashi mused idly. Within about 15 seconds, Naruto had a fairly large seal done out and presented it to Kakashi. The man's lone eye widened slightly. This is fairly good. Not perfect by any means, but you could definitely sell it. I'd say it's about a grade 3 in quality. The seal in question was a powerful Raiden trap. Anyone who stepped into that zone would get the shock of a lifetime. Literally. Kakashi smiled. It's late and I have to report to the Hokage. Be here at 6 tomorrow morning. Sakura. Sakura stiffened as her sensei spoke to her, and it wasn't in the kind tone he'd used since the end of the earlier test. He sounded much colder and very stern. If you're on a diet, it is now over. She opened her mouth indignantly to refute him, and got slammed with a much lighter version of the feeling Naruto had exposed them to, only it was directed straight at her. She gasped, "You're 12. You have no curves." Sakura wanted to cry, "And you never will if you keep up your eating habits. You're a kunoichi. You should be active enough to never gain a pound in fat. You should have energy to burn, not the other way around. If I catch you starving yourself or not eating as much as you should, you will regret it." Sakura's face was a blur as she nodded as rapidly as she could, some tears flinging themselves off her face. The feeling vanished, and the man gave them a weird eye smile. "Well, I'll see you all tomorrow." "Ya ne. Oh shit, Kakashi-senpai looks pissed." One of the Jonin mumbled to his friend. All of the teams that had graduated from the academy had now been tested, and it was time for the final portion of the ceremony. Gossiping about their teams. Mitarashi Anko giggled. "Yeah, he does. Hey Scarecrow, what crawled up your ass and died? Did one of your brats betray his other teammates like that one idiot 3 years ago?" "No," Kakashi said as blandly as he could, "quite the opposite actually." Team 7 passed handily. The entire room, sans the Hokage himself, froze in shock. Quite a few turned to look out the window to see if the sky was falling or the Kyuubi was rampaging. Anko was blinking at him stupidly, as if he said pink was the new national color and all uniforms were to be replaced immediately. "What?" she asked flatly. Team 7 passed. Kakashi repeated dully, just barely able to keep his teeth from grinding. Anko looked around helplessly at her best friend Yuhi Kurenai, who shrugged her shoulders. Anko turned back to Kakashi with a raised eyebrow. "Well, what's the problem then? Surely your brats aren't that bad?" Kakashi addressed her, but was looking at the Hokage. "The problem, Anko-chan, is that I'm having to restrain myself from going over to the academy and raising the fucking thing to the ground." The room once again froze at hearing the normally mild-mannered, jolly pervert swear so blatantly. The Hokage sighed resignedly. "And what has you so angry, Kakashi-kun? Where do I start?" Kakashi mock-mused as he crossed his arms behind his back. "I suppose I'll start with Haruno Sakura-chan." Her file stated that she was a bona fide genius, with excellent memory and intelligence. It went on to state that her taijutsu was good and that her chakra control was impeccable. His eye glinted, and indeed, her chakra control was perfect. But not for good reason. She has some of the smallest reserves I've ever seen on a fresh genin. They are, in a word, pitiful. I've seen better reserves on some 10-year-olds. Not only that, but like most idiot girls her age, she's on a diet," he said mockingly. Kurenai and Anko, the highest-ranking kunoichi in the room, stiffened. Not a regular diet either, but a starvation diet. The genius had the brilliant idea to not only follow my order to not eat breakfast, but also skip dinner the night before. Anko growled, "You're making me want to march to the academy right along with you." She growled in disgust. Kurenai looked equally furious. "Just so." Kakashi nodded. "As a result, her conditioning is pitiful for a genin. She knows her forms and steps, and can put a surprising amount of force into her punches, but her endurance is awful. I engaged her in a spar at genin speed with the academy taijutsu. Not only was I forced to drastically lower myself afterwards to match her, but she lasted 5 minutes. 5. Half the room looked as if they wanted to strangle the girl, and Hiruzen was rubbing his face with one hand. I have been lax, it seems. He ground out angrily. I may have had a lot on my plate since Minato's death, but this situation has degraded a lot more than expected. I shall take the blame for this. The Hokage declared, and I am ordering an immediate audit of the academy and its teachers, as well as its entire staff. This situation cannot be allowed to continue. I shall give up my paychecks in order to make sure the academy returns to its previous standards, if money is the issue. The rest of the Jonin nodded in satisfaction. He addressed Kakashi directly. I take it that is not the only issue? No, Hokage-sama, Kakashi said respectfully. Sakura's biggest issue has been solved, or it will be soon. I will not allow her to continue starving herself, and I have already made it very clear that there will be consequences if I catch her doing it again. Anko-shaped consequences, now that I think about it. Anko grinned viciously. I'll even do it for free. But Sakura was not the only problem child. Kakashi stated, Uchiha Sasuke-kun was claimed, in his file, to be the next coming of Uchiha Itachi. The rest of the room burst into laughter. Anko and Kurenai were hanging off each other while laughing, and Asuma, the Hokage's son, had his hands on his knees as he doubled over. Does he even have the Sharingan? Anko asked in between breathless chuckles. Nope. That set off the room once more. Hiruzen had an indulgent smirk gracing his lips. Indeed? Ho, isn't that interesting? Kakashi smirked. The boy is good. No doubt about that. In fact, his taijutsu is already borderline chunin. However, he did not showcase any genjutsu, and the ninjutsu he showed off cost quite a bit of his total chakra. He is wasteful since his control is not perfect. He has roughly 10 times as much chakra as Sakura, but his endurance is decent. High genin at least. He sighed despairingly, but he has let his academy success go to his head. He's the most arrogant brat I've ever been assigned. I let him touch one of the bells and he honestly thought he did that off his own merit instead of realizing that I had just thrown him a bone. Hiruzen shook his head. He is at least passable. I am tasking you with breaking that attitude, Kakashi. I won't need to. Kakashi replied blandly. I haven't even gotten to the worst part yet. Kakashi took a file out of his pouch, which Hiruzen recognized with a groan as being Naruto's. The last member of my team is Uzumaki Naruto. You might know him as the Academy's dead last for 3 years in a row, the damn brat who is impossible to catch, or even perhaps he who paints the Hokage mountain in broad daylight in Kill Me Orange. Quote, the assembled Jonin grumbled and chuckled good-naturedly, and Hiruzen had an actual smile on his face. Kakashi did not, as he snapped open Naruto's Academy file. Naruto's file reads, and I quote, Uzumaki Naruto is the worst example of a shinobi I have ever seen pass through these halls. His taijutsu is terrible. His grades are awful. He can't even perform the simple bunshin. He is worthless as a ninja and will never amount to anything. He snapped the booklet shut cheerfully, let the worst sink in for a moment, and then the entire file burst into flames in his hand. The burning file dropped to the floor where it was consumed rapidly into ashes, which Kakashi stomped on and ground with his boot. If Naruto got a single hand on Sasuke, he would break him. He said harshly. Naruto displayed the ability to use Kushina-sama's chakra chains. He displayed skill in Fuinjutsu. He turned a 2-foot-wide log into sawdust and wood chips with a knee, and had enough monstrous strength to stomp a 10-foot-wide and 5-foot-deep crater into the ground. Not only that, but he stomped said crater into the ground because I was using Doten Dochu Eigyo no Jutsu, and he sensed exactly where I was. The room listened in growing disbelief as Kakashi worked himself up with his rant. His taijutsu was as terrible as advertised, because the Academy taijutsu was so unsuited to his personality and his strengths that it may as well have been taught to an ant. He is incredibly resilient, and did not even grunt when I nailed him with a half-strength uppercut right to the gut. He has 10 times as much chakra as I do. His henge is so advanced that he can turn into animals with fully formed chakra systems from what I could sense. He was perfectly capable of using Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, having learned it in 2 hours. Said technique was used to almost break my jaw when he used henge to turn 2 of them into Sakura-chan while she mixed in regular Bunshin to throw me off. And do you know why this ninja will never amount to anything? Because he can't use the Bunshin no Jutsu. The room was stunned into silence. Really, what could you possibly say to that? The Hokage's office was darker now. The sun had been dropping in the sky, and its now red light was casting a more somber glow throughout the room. The room had emptied, leaving only the three genin whose teams passed and the Hokage himself inside. Kakashi was standing almost shoulder to shoulder with Yuhi Kurenai and Sarutobi Asuma, staring at their leader's back. Hiruzen himself was staring out the window, contemplating the events that had occurred minutes ago. He finally sighed, "I apologize for putting so much pressure on your shoulders." He turned, hands clasped behind him. Konoha cannot allow itself to be seen as weak. He declared, "I am ordering you to step up your schedules for training your students." Team Guy is the only Konoha team from the previous year still in circulation. The rest of the genin teams do not show signs that they have any budding legends in them either. He grimaced, "I want all of your teams to be prepared for the next Chunin exams." He declared, "Otherwise I fear there will be sharks in the water soon, smelling blood. I want your students not only prepared for the exams, but I want to see records broken." Kakashi smirked sardonically, "I guess this means I'll actually have to be on time for training." He drawled. Hiruzen turned and gave him the gimlet eye, "You better be." Kakashi sighed, "I am curious though, Hokage-sama. I remember years ago you were fairly close to Naruto. You had to have known that his failure at the academy was due to a technique he could not have been reasonably expected to perform. You were alive and friends with many Uzumaki prior to Uzu's destruction. Why did Naruto-kun slip through the cracks for 3 years?" Hiruzen gave off a long-suffering sigh, "Unfortunately, it has been some time since Naruto-kun and I were really close." He stared out the window, smiling melancholically. "When the Uchiha massacre and the Hyuga incidents happened, I became incredibly busy. I could not spare Naruto the time the same way I could before both events. They were years apart, but both caused us to drift apart." "I see," Kakashi said carefully. "Before I knew it, I was seeing him less and less." Hiruzen sighed, "Even after my workload lightened, things did not go back to normal. Before Mizuki's betrayal, I truthfully hadn't seen him for a long while." The thought hurt. He had been quite fond of the little bundle of joy. With a sigh, he hardened his heart. "Kakashi, Kurenai, Asuma, I want all 3 of your teams to be at least participating in the Chunin exams within the year. It has been a long time since Konoha sent out a message to the other countries. It is time we break that silence. Here is my decree. Your 3 teams will not do any more than the required 20 D-rank missions. You train and do the D ranks as you wish, and when they finish, I want your teams doing C-rank minimum missions. If necessary, I want your teams doing joint training and perhaps even larger-scale, joint missions. Now go. I have a lot to consider." The 3 ninja nodded, and were gone as quickly as they came, leaving the old Hokage to his thoughts. "Good morning everyone," Kakashi exclaimed cheerfully as he puffed into existence near his 3 students. He was met with grumbles from 2 of the 3. Sakura even looked like she was going to nod off, and had bags under her eyes. A strange cross-like vein popped up on his forehead and he took out a kunai. "What was that?" "Did you say, 'Good morning Kakashi-sensei'? We're really excited to be training. Please chase us around with kunai until we drop from exhaustion." "Alright, can do," Sakura screeched as the kunai came dangerously close to cutting her hair, and ran off. Sasuke wasn't far behind as another kunai came dangerously close to his precious. Naruto merely yawned and waved Kakashi off. "I have my own conditioning to do. You have fun with the kiddies." Kakashi shrugged, knowing that Naruto would not be skimping on his training if yesterday was any indication. As he ran off after the other 2, he perked up as he heard a small hissing as if something was being unsealed. "Oh well, I'll see whatever it was when we get back." Naruto merely grinned as he stretched out a bit in front of the massive log that was laying on its side in front of him. It was wider than he was tall, and weighed many tons. Naruto hefted the giant trunk with a heavy grunt, and his chakra chains burst from his back and wrapped it up, securing it to his back. He dropped to his hands with another grunt, and began doing push-ups. 1. He called out to the empty clearing. 10 minutes later, he stopped at around 237 as he heard an odd, distant cry of, "Youth." Shrugging it off as unimportant, he continued his count. Sakura collapsed to the dirt, uncaring about her dress. It was practically ruined anyway already. It was full of small tears and cuts from where Kakashi had decided to be a bit mean with his throwing, and she was drenched in sweat. She huffed heavily, trying to catch her breath. Their crazy sensei had made her and Sasuke run 3 laps around Konoha. 3 laps around the entire giant, walled city. At a decent speed too. She had never been so tired in her life, and it was only 7:30. Sasuke-kun was sitting next to her, puffing but not as visibly exhausted. She moaned, and where the hell was Naruto? Why wasn't he running with us? Kakashi chuckled. I'm not worried about Naruto's physical conditioning. I'm perfectly fine with letting him do his own thing in that regard. He eyed her with a grin. You should be glad I'm the one in charge of your physical conditioning. For now, that is. If I left Naruto to it, you would probably want to kill me. And why is that? Sasuke challenged. Kakashi pointed somewhere behind them. Sakura and Sasuke turned as much as they could. Barely in Sakura's case, but both of them gasped in shock. What the hell? Sakura screeched loudly. Naruto had finished with his push-ups, and had continued on through a whole routine of exercises. Currently, he was doing a handstand with the log at his feet, doing vertical push-ups. He was also doing leg presses at the same time. Kakashi started to laugh at their disbelief, and he called over to Naruto. What? The blonde didn't as much as pause in his workout. You have 5 minutes while Sakura and Sasuke catch a breather. After that we're moving on to other things. Kakashi called over. Naruto scowled at that. He'd have to finish his workout later. With that in mind, he kicked off the log and got to his feet. He walked over to his teammates while casually unsealing a bottle of water. So, what did you have the kiddies do? Naruto asked. 3 laps around the village while dodging wonderful, sharp, pointy kunai. Kakashi chirped, looking to intentionally irritate the two. Naruto laughed. Not bad. What we doing next, Scarecrow? Kakashi gave Naruto the evil smile this time, and he started to sweat slightly. Chakra control. Naruto groaned. Boring. You trying to bore us to death as well, sensei? Iruka also made us do the stupid leaf balancing shit. And that all it did for me? Jack shit. Kakashi laughed lightly. Boring, I disagree. It is a vital ninja skill. He smiled at Naruto's scowl. Don't make that face at me. We won't be doing leaf balancing. Frankly, you could do that for the rest of your life and not make a single difference. You might as well try to melt an iceberg by blowing on it in your case. He turned to Sakura. Care to explain chakra to us, just to make sure everyone is on the same page, Sakura-chan? Sasuke and Naruto rolled their eyes, but Sakura threw herself into her explanation without moving from the comfy, red, hard and uncomfortable, ground. Chakra is vital to life and is the combination of the body's spiritual and physical energies. Spiritual energy is the energy of our minds. It is derived from our conscious minds and can grow through study, meditation, and our life experiences. Physical energy is the body's energy, and can be increased through training, stimulants, and exercise. When combined together, they become our chakra. She sat up, smiling brightly. If tiredly, increasing one or the other will make our chakra grow more powerful as well. What is the point of this? Sasuke groused, making Sakura's head dip sadly at being basically dismissed by her crush. We already know how to use chakra. Kakashi chuckled. No, you really don't. Your control over your chakra is pitiful. You waste a lot of it in your techniques. The amount of chakra you put into your Hosenka yesterday should have produced 20 fireballs at least. But because you were wasteful, all you got was 11. Sasuke growled and scowled at having his performance decried as wasteful. Before he could say anything else, Kakashi continued, but if your chakra control is pitiful, there isn't actually a word for how bad Naruto's control is. Sasuke smirked at the blonde victoriously. Don't look too happy, princess. My control is so bad because I have more chakra in my pinky than you can use in a week. Naruto shot back. Sasuke glared heatedly. Sakura looked at the two hesitantly, before addressing Naruto. Ah, Naruto-san. Why exactly do you have so much chakra? Naruto waved at her. No, san, Sakura-chan. I don't care for the polite honorifics. Anyway, I'm an Uzumaki. A true Uzumaki. That means that, among other things, I have extremely dense, extremely powerful chakra. And a whole lot of it. He said, but beyond even my own heritage, there is another factor. If you can figure out what that factor is, great. He shrugged. I don't particularly care if you figure it out, but I'm not going to come out and say it. That drew Sakura's interest, and she smiled slightly at having a mystery to solve. Her inner self muttered, ooh, mysterious. Mama likes. Kakashi interrupted before Sakura could get another word in. Excellent. Well done, Sakura-chan. Now, we will be learning a new exercise today that will not only help your chakra control, but has many applications in general shinobi life. He smiled, and all three genin leaned forward in interest. We will be climbing trees. All three would have face vaulted if they weren't already either sitting or on the ground. We already know how to climb trees. Sakura moaned, thinking off all the physical exercise that was coming. Without your hands. Kakashi smirked slyly. The three genin looked dumbfounded. Without hands? Kakashi smirked, and walked straight up a tree until he was upside down and staring at his students. Naruto's eyes were glinting and he was rubbing his hands together with a disturbing grin. Sakura had stars in her eyes and even Sasuke looked interested. Kakashi began to sweat slightly as he took in Naruto's expression. Oh boy, I know that grin. He shook himself lightly. To walk on vertical surfaces or even upside down, you need to use your chakra to adhere to the surface. You channel your chakra to your feet. An added difficulty as the feet are the hardest areas to channel and control chakra with, and then you run up your tree. Too much chakra and you'll break the tree. Too little and you won't stick. He quirked a weird eye smile at them, and tossed 3 kunai forward. I suggest you get a running start and use these to mark your progress. Well, get to it. Sasuke didn't even pause as he picked a tree and attacked it. He made it halfway up before the bark under his feet cracked and he was flung off. He marked his spot with a slice of the bark with his kunai. Sakura smiled brightly at the boy. Cha. Sasuke-kun is so cool. Naruto didn't bother picking up his kunai as he smirked confidently. He crossed his fingers in that weird seal and called, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The clearing was filled with smoke as 100 doppelgangers of Naruto came into existence. Sakura quirked an eyebrow, and Sasuke grit his teeth at Naruto's showing off. He called out, Hey, dead last, what's with the clones? Naruto laughed, happy to get one up on the smug prick. Kage Bunshin are special amongst clone techniques. They have the unique ability to transfer back any information it learned to the original creator when it dies. Sakura gaped, and Sasuke's teeth began grinding. This includes any chakra-based things it learned. Useless for physical stuff though, unless you use them for sparring. So if I have all those clones work on something for an hour, when they dispel it will be as though I worked 100 hours myself. That, and each clone can have its own unique way of trying things, so if it figures something out it can pop and show it to all the remaining clones, and myself. Sasuke dropped his kunai and got in Naruto's face. Teach me. He demanded, completely forgetting that Naruto wasn't an academy teacher willing to humor him. Naruto simply shoved him away. It's a kenjutsu, idiot. I can't simply go around teaching people. Sakura glowered at the mistreatment of her crush, but she'd sworn to herself last night that she would try to improve herself for her. She took a deep breath, and asked politely, Why can't you teach us, Naruto? Naruto turned to her with a smile. Like I said, it's a kenjutsu. If I taught you and you used it, you'd probably die even with that perfect chakra control. The princess here would probably manage to create one, and it'd be good for a single fireball before it died, and Sasuke would be the same. It takes more chakra than either of you two have for it to be effective. I see, thanks Naruto. Sakura said with a small smile. Sasuke sighed and spoke up, I apologize, dead last. It strained his pride to do so, but he realized he was in the wrong. Naruto waved him off, no problem bastard. I'm willing to help if you ask, but demand anything and you're getting a foot up the ass. Kakashi smirked lightly, while Sakura glowered at her two teammates. With that, the 102 boys ignored each other and picked trees. With loud battle cries, the Narutos charged and the clearing was filled with the sound of splintering wood. Sakura picked up her own kunai, looking at the tree in determination. Oh, and Sakura-chan. Kakashi trailed off as she stiffened and turned to look at him. I fully expect that you'll make it up the tree within your first few tries. Sakura beamed at his confidence in her. However, while your control is good, I suspect that your tiny reserves are the cause. Sakura drooped, and she had thought that he was complimenting her too. Therefore, when you get up that tree, you will come down again. And then go up again. And you will keep doing that until you are exhausted. Then you will rest and do it again. That should increase your chakra reserves as well as keep your control of it high. Sakura slumped over in depression. Yes, sensei. She moaned and went off to practice as well. She made it up the tree in one try. Welcome home, Sakura-chan. Haruno Mebuki called out absently as she heard the door open. She was sitting on the couch, reading through a catalog. She grew slightly worried when her daughter didn't reply at all, but she heard her footsteps come closer. Oof. She huffed in surprise as a weight landed right on her lap. She raised the catalog to see her daughter's head, face down in her lap. She giggled as her daughter moaned. Sensei give you a hard time? Mimble-wimble. She giggled harder at her daughter's nonsense. Well, looks like you're finally getting a real taste of the path you chose for yourself. Mebuki smiled as she began running her finger through her daughter's smooth, silky hair. I did warn you, didn't I? Sakura groaned. I heard in places that don't exist. Her father walked in, laughing heartily. Ah, I remember those days. You'll get used to it, Sakura-chan. So, what did they have you do? A couple dozen laps around the lake at the training grounds? Sparring? Sakura shook her head. Or, well, she tried to. It ended up looking more like a wobble than anything. 3 laps around Konoha for me and Sasuke. Her parents blinked while Kakashi-sensei threw kunai at us. Her parents blinked harder and glanced at each other. Then he had us doing tree walking for 2 hours. Well, Sasuke-kun tried it for 2 hours. He didn't actually succeed yet. I collapsed after half an hour, but I can do it perfectly. They're trying to make my reserves go up. Then he made us exercise some more and spar for a bit. Then we did teamwork trials as well. Well, Haruno Kazashi coughed, buying time to figure out something to say. You've had quite a day, haven't you? What about your third teammate? He asked curiously. Sakura yawned and mumbled out an answer. Naruto trained by himself while we were doing our conditioning. That's not fair. Mebuki said indignantly, why would your sensei make you do harsh training? And I would say it was harsh, at least for a rookie genin like you. And leave Naruto-san behind? Mebuki stifled a giggle while Kazashi grinned somewhat. Well, harsh as it was, I'm glad your sensei is taking your training seriously. I was very happy when you came home yesterday and ate a full helping for the first time in ages. Truthfully, your mother and I were getting worried about you. What do you mean, Dad? Sakura stammered and groaned in pain as she forced herself to turn around and lay down normally on her mother's lap. Her parents exchanged a look before her mother said hesitantly, truthfully, Sakura-chan, we were planning on pulling you from the program. Sakura gaped in disbelief. But why? You were both ninja yourselves. Why would you want to pull me from the program? Her father answered, and a lot more flatly than she expected from him. Frankly, you were more interested in looking good for Uchiha-san than you were about being a kunoichi. Mebuki smiled weakly. Sakura-chan, there aren't many more positions that are as bad as being a kunoichi and unable to protect yourself. The path you were on? Your father and I would have been perfectly happy to have you hate us if it saved you from such a fate. Sakura was an intelligent girl. It didn't really take much for her to realize what her mother was getting at. You mean? Kazashi nodded gravely. It happened to your aunt. She had been returning from her first C rank. Her team was ambushed. They fought, but it had just been a distraction. Team 3 made it back to Konoha missing a member. He said ominously, getting a gasp of shock from his daughter. He turned his head, fists clenched impotently. When she was rescued, she wasn't the same. She was never the same again. My wonderful sister, I would have been damned before I allowed it to happen to you, princess. He said softly. Sakura cried, pulling her mother close for a hug. I won't let you down. She whispered brokenly. That's not important, Kazashi said, patting her leg. What's important is that you don't let yourself down. He said gently. He got up and clapped loudly, getting his 2 girls to jump. Now, who's ready for dinner? He smiled at the giggles he got from his daughter. Good morning, my cute little students. Kakashi said cheerfully, only 15 minutes late. Sakura hurried to respond to her sensei, not wanting to deal with the hell that was yesterday. Hello, sensei. She chirped as cheerfully as she could. Sasuke merely mumbled his response. Kakashi clapped. Well, today is our physical rest day. You'll have less of these as you grow accustomed to the pace I set, but for now you shouldn't expect physical every day. What's a rest day? Naruto asked cluelessly. You know, a rest day. Sakura said, slightly worried for her teammate. When he stared at her uncomprehendingly, she elaborated, you know, a day where you take it slightly easy so you don't overstress your body? He continued to look unimpressed. Gives your body time to heal? Keeps total exhaustion away? Anything? He stared blankly at the three, before beginning to cackle. Sakura grew irritated as he laughed at her for a perfectly reasonable thing. He wiped a tear away. Rest day. Peef. Good one, Sakura. He stared at her unimpressed face for a moment. Wait, you're serious? She nodded blankly. He stared at her and Sasuke for a moment. Man, it must really suck to not be an Uzumaki. He resumed laughing. Kakashi rolled his eyes. Yeah. Unending stamina. We get it. Anyway, he addressed all three of his students. Your job is to keep working on chakra control on your own. I want all of you to be ready to start on water walking next week. If you are not ready to do so, he left the threat hanging. It is on you to make sure you keep working on it. Yes, even you, Sakura-chan. You still need bigger reserves. He got a surprisingly determined nod from the girl. But again, I'm leaving that to you. Yesterday I gave you three a crash course in what you can expect from now on. I smiled. Essentially, I wanted to see if any of you would quit. I cannot teach those unwilling to learn. Naruto snorted. You thought any of us would quit? We're stronger than that, Scarecrow. Give us at least some credit. Sakura flushed. She was rather sure that both were referencing her. Being complimented like that by someone so obviously stronger than her made her feel happy. Kakashi waved Naruto off. I was rather certain that none of you would, but I had to do so all the same. Now, today we'll be doing something different, he said as he took a seat with them. Now, while I will be working you all at least slightly in all aspects of being a shinobi, it is very, very rare for one person to be skilled in everything. We do not have the time to make you all masters in every art, so today we will be determining which of the ninja arts you want to focus in. Naruto chuckled. You can forget genjutsu for me, sensei. Only thing worse is Sasuke's haircut. Sasuke scoffed. What's the matter, dead last? Afraid of a little genjutsu? Naruto rolled his eyes. I can dispel them fine, bastard. In fact I've never been caught in one, ever. He said smugly, I just can't use them myself. I don't do subtle. Sakura tossed some confetti at him and handed him a badly drawn medal on a sheet of paper saying, Understatement of the year. The three stared at her blankly. Where the hell did you get the confetti from? Naruto was rather amused, and was contemplating pinning it to his chest. She blushed. I told my mom about you guys and she thought it would be good for a joke. I didn't think I'd get to use it this soon. Kakashi cleared his throat, eyes crinkled in amusement. Anyway, I figured as much. It went without saying, Naruto. Jokes aside, we need to get busy. Sakura, you have very good chakra control and your reserves are growing. They're already about a third larger than they were 2 days ago, so you've been working hard. Keep that up. Sakura beamed. Despite that, I feel that trying to make you a ninjutsu mistress would be a waste of time. At least for now. We don't know what the future holds, after all. No, I agree. Sakura said, I did a lot of thinking and talking with my parents last night, and I truthfully haven't dedicated myself to being a kunoichi. I thought I was the top kunoichi and the third-place student overall. Watching Naruto, the dead last, 2 days ago really shook my confidence. She said miserably, well no more. She cried, I won't be the one to hold this team down. With that in mind, I feel like some defensive ninjutsu would be okay, but that I shouldn't focus on it. My parents urged me to try Iryojutsu and Genjutsu. She finished. Sasuke threw her a look, which she didn't see. He was slightly impressed with her. Slightly. It also may have explained why she hadn't immediately pestered him for a date today. He really hoped it kept up. Kakashi smiled happily. Good to hear you're taking the first steps yourself. He pulled out a largish scroll and threw it to her. That scroll is an interactive Fuinjutsu seal. There are 2 sides to it, left for Genjutsu and right for Iryojutsu. Kakashi explained, you'll see that there are only 2 techniques, the 2 top ones, that are available. To unlock the next jutsu, you have to touch the unlocking seal while channeling your chakra in the manner that you would for the previous technique. He winked, just my little method of keeping you from trying things that are too advanced too early. Sakura smiled and cradled the scroll. Thank you, sensei. Kakashi eyes smiled at her, and turned to Sasuke. Now, Sasuke-kun, you've had more direction than Sakura-chan had previously. Have you thought about what you would like to specialize in, if anything? Sasuke smirked in superiority. With the Sharingan, I'll be able to specialize in anything I want. he said haughtily, smirking at knowing that he would eventually leave Naruto in the dust. And where is this fabled Sharingan? Naruto snorted. Sasuke growled at him, man, an Uchiha at your age without a Sharingan? Guess that makes you, well, nobody really. Sasuke growled and sprang forward, looking to teach the dead last a lesson. Kakashi nonchalantly caught him by his collar and flung him back to his seat on the grass. While he was needlessly confrontational about it, Naruto is right. He eyed Sasuke in disappointment. You do not have a Sharingan, Sasuke. So until you unleash it, stop acting as if you already have it. Sasuke crossed his arms and looked away. Naruto decided to throw some salt in the wound. Even when you get your little pink eye, don't expect to beat me. He grinned at Sasuke's angry, affronted gaze. Your bloodline is just a tool, same as everything else. If you rely on it for everything, you'll get nowhere quick. Kakashi nodded and turned to Sasuke. Well said. Sasuke, you were bound to find out about this eventually, so I suppose I can show you this now. He raised his hand to his headband and moved it out of the way. Sasuke gave off a strangled sound as he gazed upon his sensei's one Sharingan eye. Naruto whistled at the scar running through that area. Kakashi covered it up quickly. Even with that eye, I am not unbeatable. Neither will you be unbeatable should you begin using them. Your clan had plenty of high-level ninja, yet not one of them ever became Hokage. Do not let those eyes go to your head. How did you get that eye? Sasuke choked out. Kakashi looked indifferent. That is a story for another day. Do not press me on this. Clearly, it was a touchy subject with him. Sasuke snarled and turned away. Sakura stared at him strangely, seeing a new side to her longtime crush that she wasn't sure she liked. Now, I'll ask you again, Uchiha Sasuke-kun. Have you given a thought to what you would like to work on during your first few months as a genin? Kakashi repeated. Sasuke huffed, ninjutsu and taijutsu. He looked away, brooding. Kakashi nodded, and was about to speak up when Naruto cut him off. Should probably get the princess to try some swordplay as well. All three other heads snapped to him. Oh, and why do you say that? Kakashi asked in interest. I watched his fight with you. Naruto said, bastard's real quick, I'll give him that. He's also pretty precise. If he can extend his range a bit it won't hurt him. Plus, he's an Uchiha. He should have enough money lying around to afford a real good blade, and he might even be able to run some ninjutsu through it. Sasuke was looking intrigued, and smiled a bit. Not a bad idea, dead last. Naruto grinned and tipped his head at him. No problem, princess. That put the scowl firmly back on his face. Sakura groaned. Do you have to antagonize him, Naruto? Naruto scoffed. Of course I do. Why should I let things get boring? Shinobi are way too serious about everything, even when not necessary. He grinned. I should do a prank day sometime soon. Kakashi felt a shiver run straight down his spine, and hastily interjected, now, let's not get too crazy, Naruto. Naruto turned and stared at him blankly, causing him to sweat a bit. Slowly, a smirk grew on his face. Actually, I think it's a great idea. He eyed Kakashi slyly. Hope you have better locks this time, Inu. Kakashi cringed and started weeping inwardly. Kakashi coughed and turned to Sasuke. So, ninjutsu, taijutsu, and kenjutsu. Not a bad list. See if you can find yourself a good sword, Sasuke-kun. The boy nodded, actually excited for once. He was handed a scroll himself, this one filled with ninjutsu techniques. Now, how about you, devil child? Naruto laughed happily at that. Determined to milk this for all it's worth before I get you, scarecrow? Kakashi nodded resolutely. Alright then. While ninjutsu would be awesome with my chakra reserves, I'm thinking they're not really appropriate for now. My chakra control is real shit and I'd probably be limited to wide area or highly destructive techniques that would not always be appropriate. So for now, I'll pass on ninjutsu. He had a glint in his eye. For now. With that in mind, my main goal is to make my taijutsu not suck. I'd like to get a weapon as well, but not a sword. So for these first few months, I would say chakra control, taijutsu, and fuinjutsu. Kakashi nodded, making a mental note to somehow throw Naruto at Jiraiya-sama's general direction first chance he got. Seal masters were very rare. Good seal masters were even rarer. Alright, not a bad list either. Why not a sword though? Naruto shrugged, never liked them. Well, if you're sure, I won't argue. He started chuckling ominously. Now, I was going to help kick your taijutsu into shape, but since you're going to target your poor, frightened sensei on prank day. He trailed off. I'm going to be too busy looking over my shoulder in fear, you see. Naruto stared at him with narrowed eyes. You just doubled your dose. A shiver ran up Kakashi's spine. Oh, now what will I do? He wailed dramatically. My own cute little student has it out for me. He took out a sheet of paper as well as a scroll with various chakra control exercises and fuinjutsu concepts he believed Naruto was probably starting to learn and handed it to Naruto. Well, since I will be too busy hiding, if you want taijutsu help you'll go to the East Shinobi Complex and follow the instructions on that paper. Naruto took it, a challenging grin on his face. This means war, Scarecrow. Kakashi feigned deafness. Well, I will be gone for the next week. I have a mission of my own to complete. By next week, I expect you all to be fully capable of tree walking for hours if need be. Additionally, I expect you to be on at least a third technique in your scrolls. If you can water walk as well, you'll be rewarded. He smiled. So with that, I'll see you cute little genin next week. Ya nay. He vanished in a puff of smoke. Naruto held back a yawn as he reached the location the sheet of paper Kakashi gave him had specified. It was 4 a.m., and even he felt the urge to yawn at that ungodly hour. But no sense in wasting the day, so he had roughly 100 clones at home working on the fuinjutsu principles taught by the scroll Kakashi had given him, and a further 200 clones at Training Ground 7 working on tree climbing. They also had the order to proceed to water walking, which was also in the scroll Kakashi had given him, this time on the control side of things. If they started being able to do acrobatics on the trees without slipping even if they weren't concentrating. He suspected that wouldn't happen today, but it was worth a shot. He read the paper one last time and sighed. He could be a clown at times. He knew this, and accepted it. But even he was embarrassed to have to do this. I'm going to kill that damn scarecrow. He ran a hand down his face, but steeled himself nonetheless. Taking a deep breath, he cupped his hands around his mouth and shouted at the top of his lungs, oh dear. The flames of my youth have been extinguished. Whatever shall I do? He dropped his hands to his side and dipped his head, completely embarrassed. Thankfully, it appeared that no one was around, or at least not awake. He waited a couple of seconds before turning and beginning to walk away from the complex, vowing to get his revenge. He'd made 3 steps when he heard a surge behind him and a cry of, youth. Dust exploded behind him and he was forced to cover his eyes as he whirled around. Coughing, he waved away the dust before going bug-eyed at the sight before him. It was a man, or perhaps a thing. He shook slightly in fear. It was wearing a skin-tight, lime-green unitard with his red-clothed Hitte-8 acting as a belt. He had a standard Jonin flak jacket unzipped over his green ensemble, and striped orange leg warmers. Blue ninja sandals finished off the look. He was lightly tanned and had his deep black hair in a bowl cut, but it was his eyebrows that terrified Naruto. They were thick like caterpillars. He swore he saw them moving. Oh Kami, are those things alive? He yelped. The man laughed boisterously. Are you the poor individual who has had his flames of youth extinguished? He boomed energetically with a thumbs up and a pinging, blinding smile full of sparkly white teeth. Naruto's eye twitched. So uncool. Ah, I just did what this note told me to do. My scarecrow of a sensei sent me. Naruto deadpanned. Oh ho? The green thing said, so my eternal rival has sent you to me? Naruto blinked. Eternal rival? Eternal rival? The thing looked crushed. Curse you Kakashi. The man thought to himself, a fist shaking in front of him. Ho, so my eternal rival did not mention me? How rude. Naruto blinked. His eyes were closed for a few milliseconds at most. The man was gone. Naruto's eyes widened as he realized the man was now behind him. 43-43 is our current record. Naruto whirled around to stare at the man. Holy fucking speed. He thought to himself. That had just been movement. Not even chakra-enhanced movement. What the hell was this guy? The man smiled. My name is Maida Guy, and I am Konoha's sublime green beast and premier taijutsu master. Naruto grinned. Taijutsu master huh? Guy grinned. That is correct. I am a master of dozens of styles of hand-to-hand combat. I suppose that is why Kakashi sent you here, is it not? Yeah, he had a mission and he wanted me to start learning a style that would fit me. He thought you could do a better job of it than him. That seemed to be the correct thing to say, as Guy seemed to visibly get pumped. Excellent. He bellowed, then to start, we shall warm up. 100 laps around Konoha to start. And if we cannot complete that, we shall climb the Hokage monument with boulders tied to our backs 100 times. And if we cannot do that, we shall run to the Valley of the End and back on our hands. Naruto listened as the challenges got progressively worse in a growing mixture of disbelief and excitement. Now, explode, my youth. The madman took off at a good clip. Naruto shook his head, but he was grinning, someone after my own heart, I guess. He took off as quickly as Guy, hoping to catch him. It's been a while since someone actually managed to keep up with me. Guy exclaimed loudly as the two arrived in Training Ground 9. Naruto was slightly winded and breathing a bit harshly, but even as Guy spoke he was regaining his composure. That's my line, Guy-sensei. Guy grinned brightly, excellent, my young pupil. Now that our fires have been stoked, what seems to be your issue? Naruto grinned back. Weird he may be, but the man sure seemed like he knew his stuff. Plus, he was even less winded than he was. An impressive feat in Naruto's mind. Well, to put it as simply as possible, my taijutsu is ass. Absolute garbage. Guy frowned, I see. You're a fresh graduate, correct? Naruto nodded, that's right. The academy taijutsu was completely unsuited towards me, and they don't teach anything else at that crappy academy. I even asked if there were other styles I could try out, and they just waved me off and told me to go practice the standard style. They're so set in their ways it's ridiculous. Guy sighed, my precious student Lee had much the same problem. He had no talent in any of the ninja arts during the academy. He smiled, today he could teach taijutsu to the instructors. His determination and will caught my attention, and he flourished under my goken. He eyed the young teen in front of him shrewdly, let us see if you show me the same. He looked the boy up and down, you are strong. He said, more muscled than I or Lee. How strong? Naruto smiled and walked over to the largest tree he could see. He flung his arms around the trunk, fingers impacting harshly enough that they dug into and fractured the bark. With a grunt of exertion, Naruto thrust forward. The tree groaned as the ground cracked and strained as it was uprooted. It creaked and groaned as it tumbled backwards and came to a halt with a thunderous crash. Naruto smiled as he threw it onto his right shoulder and carried the massive log back to Guy, who was grinning, excellent. He yelled, we were needing some new training posts. Naruto gave him a thumbs up with a chuckle. A great display of your strength, and I do have a feeling that I have not seen the full extent yet. Naruto whistled innocently. It is quite rare for a student fresh out of the academy to have muscles and strength as developed as yours is. I can see that you handle your own conditioning quite well. Your youth needs no encouragement to burn. His teeth pinged, but how about flexibility? How dexterous are you? How acrobatic are you? Naruto laughed, I'd hate to disappoint. He lifted his right leg straight, and brought it clear above his head. He didn't so much as wobble as he stood on one leg, the other pointing almost 180 degrees in the opposite direction. Then, he swung it down rapidly, hopping with his right leg. His momentum carried into an easy front somersault, and he landed nimbly. Guy blinked, before smiling, oh, this is going to be quite fun. Sakura was sitting cross-legged on her floor, eyes closed. One of the most important things for Iryojutsu, or so the scroll had claimed, was the ability to focus even under extreme pressure or very nasty situations. The first scroll in the set Kakashi had given her had made it very clear that the life of a ninja was not glamorous. She could very well end up in a situation where someone precious to her was ripped open, hemorrhaging vital body fluids all over her. She had to be either prepared for such an occasion, or able to ignore it to make the correct, life-saving decisions. She had to be capable of entering a state of calmness so that she would not panic. To that end, she had taken up meditation. It was difficult, but Sakura was nothing if not determined. It had taken her days to even be able to reach a state of calm, but maintaining it was harder. She could only keep it going for a few minutes at most. She was used to success in matters of the mind, and her earlier failures had frustrated her. But she had succeeded, if barely. She smiled as she opened her eyes slowly, before they widened drastically and she jumped to her feet. She was not in her room. Frankly, she was not even in a house, much less her house. She was in a field. A field filled with flowers and, as she turned and looked, a single giant Sakura tree in full bloom. It was really quite beautiful, she marveled. The skies were clear, not a cloud in them, and the sun was shining brightly. It did nothing to ease Sakura's confusion. Where am I? She whispered. Where do you think you are? A voice called back, causing her to stiffen. She whipped her attention to the Sakura tree, and called out, Who are you? Show yourself. A giggle reached her ears as she saw a figure step out from the tree's shadow. Sakura gasped. It was her? But how? She was standing right there. She scrutinized the figure sharply, and realized a few things. She looked just like her except, older. Not by much, just a few years. But she was taller, her figure more developed. Her eyes were a darker green. She was wearing a pure white kimono that showed far more skin than Sakura herself would ever dare to show. And her smile. It was much more vicious. Sakura licked her lips and shifted back slightly. Who are you? The older Sakura smirked. Why, I am Haruno Sakura, of course. She said primly, taking a slightly mocking curtsy and giggling a bit. Sakura bit back a snarl. I'm Sakura. The older figure looked surprised. Ho, and that means I cannot be Sakura as well? Does that mean you don't like what I've done to the place? She asked innocently, a pout on her full lips. Sakura swallowed and backed away slightly, blinking for the barest of moments. She yelped and jumped back, finding the older her was now merely a foot away, smiling proudly. She ran a finger down her younger self's face, gently. I am you, Sakura-chan. Her hand cupped her chin, bringing her face up to look her older self in the eye. I am everything you wish you could be. She whispered. Her older self let go of her chin and twirled away, kimono fluttering as well. I am every thought you repress. Her older self stated, I am every action you wish you could take. I am the part of you that wants to get down and dirty. I am the part of you that wishes to take. I am your confidence, your strength, your desires. I am the part of you that you ignore, she hissed, because you fear what other would think of you. But make no mistake, I am part of you. She smiled, licking her lips, and I want out. Sakura gasped, be you but. You can't hide behind a mask forever, Sakura-chan. She sang, nor can you repress yourself forever. She dropped to her knees, taking the younger girl's hands. We are meant to be partners, Sakura-chan. She whispered passionately, two sides of the same coin. Yet you hide me from the world as if I'm dirty. Tears began leaking from Sakura's eyes. I'm afraid. She wailed, afraid that I will never be like you. But you will be. Her older self grinned up at her, holding up a hand, just waiting for her younger self to take it. I'm here, aren't I? Sakura's fingers entwined with her older self's fingers. She smiled, tears still falling. Yes, you are. Sakura's eyes opened, her irises a darker green than usual. Her room was just as she'd left it, but she was not the same Sakura who had closed her eyes. She sprang to her feet, showing more acrobatics than usual. She smiled and clenched her fist, feeling much more power coiled inside her muscles than usual. Her chakra also felt stronger and more chaotic. There was more of it, and it wasn't under her usual precise control. She clenched a fist with a grin. The boys are sure in for a surprise. She said slyly to the empty house. She closed her eyes, shifting. It took her a while, 15 seconds total, but when she opened them, her irises once more were the lighter green she had been born with. Her chakra was once again calm, and she was weaker. But despite that fact, she knew she was more than she had been even that morning. Yes, they are. She opened her hand, smiling brightly. Yes, they are. Sasuke was sitting Seiza, praying in front of the graves of his parents and grandparents. An incense stick had been lit, and a lone tear had trickled down Sasuke's face. I miss you, Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa. He sighed and wiped at his face. He bowed down. Itachi won't get away with what he did. He swore. He got to his feet, left hand grabbing at a new item. It was a long, lacquered wooden piece of wood, colored a blood red. Grasping it firmly in both hands, he slid them apart. A gleaming silver blade slowly appeared as the wood separated. He examined the sword, polished to a mirror's sheen, and then clapped it shut once more. It was a Chikuto. He turned to his grandmother's grave. I will take good care of your blade, grandmother. Rest easy, my family. He turned and walked away, determination and hatred consuming his being. The wind blew, tossing dried-up leaves around the yard as Sasuke slid the door shut. Are you really serious about this? Hurry up and teach me. The shirtless and impatient Naruto roared at the old pervert supposed to be teaching him. The man in question turned from his research with an annoyed frown. Kids these days. He mumbled, before that, do you remember what we talked about yesterday? About the blue and red chakra? Naruto paused and sat on his haunches. Yeah, that actually seemed important when you talked about it yesterday, so I spent a while thinking about it. Ibeo. He frowned. It's that dumb fox's chakra, isn't it? Jiraiya twitched. Oh great, he has a verbal tic too. He thought in exasperation. Oh ho brat, I'm surprised. I didn't think you would have figured that out by yourself. Naruto twitched this time, but Jiraiya kept talking before he could yell out. You said that when you used it, you felt incredibly powerful, didn't you? Naruto crossed his fingers behind his head as he was prone to do. Yeah, but I don't like using it. Jiraiya's chin slipped off his hand a bit at that. According to Sakura-chan, I've used that chakra twice, and I couldn't remember much about what happened either time. I didn't even realize I had used it against that snake bastard until I asked Sakura-chan about it yesterday. He has problems with his memory when using Kyuubi. That might cause problems. Jiraiya thought, well kid, that's probably because you've been using it unconsciously every time you've done it. Using it yourself, by choice, will probably make that little side effect go away. After all, with that overwhelming power, we'll be able to bypass control for now. I'll be teaching you that, and to do it, I'll teach you to summon toads. He grinned, awaiting the exclamation that was sure to come. He was disappointed. He looked down, and saw Naruto with a grimace on his face. He was rubbing his non-existent chin hair, apparently in deep thought. In reality, Naruto was remembering something that had happened right after he had graduated from the academy. If you want the Hokage title, beat me first. He remembered throwing that line at Konohamaru, and shortly after defeating Ebisu, if you want the Hokage title, there ain't going to be any shortcuts. Naruto chuckled to himself, if I did as this old pervert wants me to do, I'd be just as Konohamaru used to be. Like hell. Naruto faced his new teacher, determination in his eyes, and simply said, no. Jiraiya's eyes widened. What do you mean no, kid? Don't you want me to teach you how to summon? Oh, I definitely want to learn that. It's using the fox's power that I'm saying no to. Naruto crossed his arms and stared at Jiraiya defiantly. Jiraiya actually growled, don't be so stubborn brat. He yelled, but Naruto didn't flinch. Don't you know what kind of power that could give you? That chakra increases your speed, your reflexes, everything. This power was given to you. It shouldn't be wasted. What good is any of that power if I still can't win? If it was as great as you say, shouldn't I have wiped the floor with that snake bastard? Naruto asked rhetorically, you're talking like I'm supposed to rely on it. He glared at Jiraiya, fuck that you old pervert. Any idiot could do the same thing that snake bastard did and just seal that power. Then what would I do? He looked to the floor, I train every day, but everyone still says I suck. I don't get any of that brainy shit others do. I know I'm not that smart. But I still try my damn best. There aren't any shortcuts on the path I'm on. His fists shook as he clenched them. I'm going to be Hokage. He yelled out, looking up at last. What kind of Hokage has to rely on another person's power? For a second there, Jiraiya saw two people very important to him superimposed over Naruto as he practically shook with the force of his determination. Well, I'll be. He smiled. Your parents would be very proud of you, you stupid idiot. His smile widened. No shortcuts, huh brat? Naruto stood again. That's right. I won't use that damn fox's power for anything other than to back up my own. I want to get strong, myself. His eyes were shining, causing Jiraiya to let out a full belly laugh. Geez kid, I promised myself I'd never be doing this again. Damn brat. Jiraiya stood as well. No shortcuts huh? Don't want to take the easy way out then brat? I wonder, you have all of that bravado, but can you back it up? Can you actually handle the hard way? Naruto growled. Damn straight I can. He smirked. What kind of Hokage would I be if I couldn't? Jiraiya laughed again. Well then brat, you've convinced me. Are you prepared then? Said your last prayers? Ate your last cup of ramen? Are you prepared to follow my orders? Are you prepared to be trained into the ground every day for the next month? Naruto didn't back down. Once we begin, you're my apprentice and you ain't getting out of it. If you give me even a hint of wanting to back down, I will beat your ass into the ground and make you stand up and continue anyway. Give up on making me give up. Naruto shot back. Jiraiya twitched, once again seeing images. This brat is going to be the death of me, spouting off one-liners like that. Especially that one. He chuckled, alright then kid, it appears that the gallant toad sage Jiraiya will be taking on an apprentice once again. One last time. He grinned and ruffled Naruto's hair. Bawa. Naruto felt the air leave his lungs as a fist drove itself into his sternum and gasped. He attempted a roundhouse, fighting through the pain, which Jiraiya simply hopped over. He ducked under the returning fist, breath already back, and jumped away from the fray. Kage Bunshin, he yelled out, forming the familiar seals. Another Naruto formed quickly, and transformed into a giant shuriken. Naruto spun and launched it at his teacher, who simply laughed. He blurred out of sight and drilled Naruto into the ground again. You're getting better, brat. Faster too. That was a flawless transition. Last week you dropped the shuriken when you tried that. Your taijutsu has improved as well, though that isn't saying much. Jiraiya commented absently, resting his foot on the panting Naruto's chest. Naruto snarled and tiredly slapped at his foot. Shut it, Ero Sennin. I still haven't even touched you. And fuck you. I was ranked 4th in the academy in taijutsu. Jiraiya laughed. Brat, if you could touch me as you are, I'd retire. You got a ways to go before landing a hit on Jiraiya-sama. Naruto growled as his breathing evened out, but he was still too tired to rise from his nice, comfy crater, and if you were 4th best, that's more an indication that your class sucked than that you were good. He cackled, you probably just outlasted the rest of them with that monster stamina of yours and your old brawling style. Naruto swore, so he chuckled again as he lifted his foot, don't worry too much, brat. You sucked because that taijutsu style was way too incompatible with you. You don't think like most people do, which is a good thing. You come up with your own ideas, you're unorthodox. You need to come up with your own style to use that fits you. You need to take the various strikes and grapples I've taught you and make up your own style that only you know how to use. Too many people can expect what's coming from rigid styles like the Jukin you're facing in the finals. Naruto nodded tiredly. I know, Ero Sennin. I was thinking about something really acrobatic, but with a lot of power behind it. He grimaced slightly. Hell, those limb breakers you showed me were nasty too. Jiraiya nodded. That would seem to fit your seemingly boundless energy. Plus, moving in that way is unpredictable in my experience. I once fought someone who avoided 2 fireballs by doing a butterfly twist in between them and kicking me in the teeth. Knocked one of them out too. He scowled as he rubbed his left cheek. Haha, you got nailed, he laughed, even though his ribs hurt from doing it. And that can so be taken the wrong way, brat. Naruto glared, so he grinned cheekily and wiggled his fingers at him. Maybe I should give you some extra incentive and force you to use that jutsu again. Somehow, Naruto found the energy to spit a fireball at him. A tiny one, but it was one all the same. So, you appear to have a bit of talent for the fire type, at least. To be able to manage a fireball after only a day is a bit impressive. What else have you figured out? Naruto grinned, despite his exhaustion. He, that clone trick you taught me is so awesome. I can't believe I never noticed before. Doesn't really surprise me. You've never really used them outside of a fight that you're not personally participating in as well. Not to mention the fact that most of them would get dispelled immediately. Jiraiya chuckled, it all probably just blended together in your head. Now, jutsu? The wind ones and the earth ones were awesome. I got those 2 done in an hour. He crowed, the lightning one was the hardest really. He pouted outrageously over the fact that he really sucked at lightning jutsu. He was really looking forward to them too. The water and fire techniques were easy compared to it. He was extremely proud of himself for that particular accomplishment. Very nice, brat. He laughed, surprising little munchkin, aren't you? I didn't think for a second you'd be able to figure out jutsu from 2 of the elements, much less all of them. I wonder what your actual affinity is. He trailed off, muttering to himself. Naruto got his playful haughtiness back. Well, I am damn awesome, Ero Sennin. And what do you mean affinity? Jiraiya rained on his parade. Still haven't landed a hit on me, you know. And as for the affinity? Jiraiya rubbed his chin, wondering if it was too soon for that particular lesson. In the end, he just shrugged. Your affinity is basically the element you'll have the easiest time learning. It's the element your chakra naturally wants to transform into. Naruto had that glint in his eye, making Jiraiya's smirk widen. He would enjoy bursting that bubble. Well, it's nearing the end of the day, so you know what that means. Jiraiya sing-songed, and Naruto predictably groaned, but dragged himself slowly into a slumped-over cross-legged sitting position anyway. Jiraiya mimicked him, with much more grace and ease, and did a hand seal. A small square of earth rose up underneath the both of them, and then shot into the air on a ridiculously long, sharpened spike. The square slabs were balancing perilously on the spikes, and true to their experience levels, Jiraiya's was completely still while Naruto's was wobbling madly as he tried to balance himself. I still don't know what this stupid exercise is for. Naruto grumbled as he tried to steady his slab. Idiot. This is going to teach you patience, balance, and finesse. All things you sorely need. I'm not going to waste a month of research training you just so you can get pissed off and bum rush a Hyuga. All of that wild energy you have can be bad for you if you don't know how to control it, and if you don't know when it's the wrong time to use it. Any wrong move here will send you hurtling to the ground, like that. Jiraiya sighed as Naruto fell, once again. He winced at the loud crash and the scream of pain as Naruto hit the floor. The pain. Naruto howled. I think I can taste my right lung. His crater was quite large. Jiraiya rolled his eyes. Don't be such a baby and get back up here. Another slab started growing from the rock provided by the spike. Jiraiya grabbed it and held it firmly in his right hand. Naruto groaned piteously and slowly tried to sit up. Despite his bone-weary tiredness, he soldiered to his feet and limped, crawled his way up the spike until he reached the top. Jiraiya held up the slab, and Naruto jumped on it and sat. Jiraiya, showing his great strength, moved Naruto and balanced him one-handed. Naruto mumbled as he tried to get his slab steady once again, wobbling less this time. As I was saying before your little accident. Jiraiya chuckled at Naruto's glare. One wrong move will send you to the ground. Remember brat, this is supposed to relax you. This is our way of unwinding and letting our tired bodies rest after a long, tiring day. Now let's meditate. Naruto sighed, but closed his eyes and tried to calm his breathing and his movements, as Jiraiya instructed. He felt the wobbles stop after a while, for the most part, and tried to relax. Jiraiya simply watched with a smile, before doing the same, but concentrating on the feeling of nature, unlike his student. This was training for him too. After all, he never did Master Sage mode completely. Jiraiya watched, still impressed by his student's chakra capacity despite having seen it in action so many times. Naruto had just created about 250 clones, an absurd amount by any standard except his own. He shook his head, almost in disbelief. Alright brat, I want 50 clones for each of the 5 techniques I showed you this morning. Afterward, when they each have almost run out of chakra, I want all of them to come together and try to work out ways to use these techniques creatively. Any idiot can launch a fireball at someone, just like any idiot can be dodged. Use that brain I know you have in there somewhere. He laughed at his apprentice's harsh glare. So, think like I did with the shuriken then? Naruto asked. Jiraiya nodded. Well, you heard him. Get going. Naruto roared at his snickering clones. Jiraiya laughed. Only you, brat. Only you could make perfect clones and have them disagree or laugh at you. Naruto scowled. Yeah, so what's next Arrow Sennin? The man grinned as he took a kunai from his seemingly out of thin air. Now we'll be doing a little something I like to call, not dying. He lunged at a cursing Naruto, intent on dragging a kunai down his arm. Fuck you, pervert. A panicked Naruto screamed as he dodged, removing his own kunai, 3 in each hand. Remembering what Sasuke had done in the forest during the second exam, he launched 4 into the air, each succeeding one a bit lower than the preceding one, and kept the last 2 akimbo with reverse grips. He swung his right arm and the 2 kunai clashed with a loud clang. He spun and threw a half-moon compass kick. Chakra flared, and the first falling kunai attached itself to the sole of his still-moving foot, extending his range and deadliness a bit. Jiraiya's eyes widened as he dodged. You crazy brat. He roared with laughter as Naruto caught the second kunai with his hand as he was spinning back up and swiped it at Jiraiya's throat. Jiraiya simply jumped back out of range, and swore when Naruto did another compass and allowed the kunai to detach from his foot, launching it at him with the aid of momentum. Jiraiya knocked it into the air as the third kunai fell and stuck fast to his newly vacant foot. He took out a second kunai with a grin as Naruto flipped to a standing position and sprang at him with a battle cry. Now that's more like IT. He roared as he dove back into the fray, taking the offensive and increasing his speed to deal with Naruto's unorthodox idea. Naruto threw one of the ones in his hand, which Jiraiya dodged this time, rather than parrying. He caught another and jumped, catching the fifth kunai, and spinning it like a saw blade in an attempt to catch Jiraiya unaware. He wasn't that lucky, and Jiraiya got through his technique and punted him in the chest. He fell, but even then, he launched the kunai on his left foot like a rocket through his chakra and backhand springed to his feet. He jumped and front flipped forward to catch the last kunai and tried to slash Jiraiya. Naruto's eyes widened in horror as his foot missed the spinning weapon. This was the first time he had ever put this idea into action, and, due to his inexperience, he had fumbled. The kunai continued on its downward journey and just barely missed out on giving him a haircut. As he sailed past the side-stepping Jiraiya, he, for the umpteenth time, felt the two vertical pieces of Jiraiya's get a dig into his belly as he was stomped into the ground. He croaked out in pain as the air left his lungs and spittle flew from his mouth. Jiraiya shook his head bemusedly. That was a good idea, Brad. A really good idea. If you were faster or more experienced with that unorthodox style, you might have actually nicked me. He started to laugh uproariously, and to make things even better, I've seen someone who had a pretty similar idea back in the Third Great War and he was a goddamn master at it. Naruto started to grin back at his master. I wonder if he'd be mad if you jacked his style. He took his foot off Naruto's gut and stopped laughing abruptly. Just don't start finding a fondness for rap, or I'll end you. A week had passed since Jiraiya had taken on his latest apprentice, and the brat had improved by several orders of magnitude under his tutelage. Man, that brat Kakashi sure has no eye for talent. He commented absently to the shaking Naruto. Why was Naruto shaking? Well, it probably had something to do with the wildly sparking chakra keeping him off of the needle he was balancing on top of by one finger. Screw you and your damn chakra exercises, Arrow Senin. The clearing shook as hundreds of voices belonging to one brat roared out. This wouldn't be so damn bad if we weren't upside down. Jiraiya laughed, easily keeping himself balanced on a simple, and more importantly stable, half-inch ball of chakra, which was what Naruto was working towards. What's wrong, brat? Can't take the heat? Oh, and it should be mentioned that the needles were directly over a bed of red-hot coals. One of the Naruto right next to Jiraiya started to wobble, chakra sparked wildly before sputtering out, making the needle stab his finger and his body fall into the coals. Fuck, Jiraiya cackled. Suck it up, brat. With your dumb ass somehow fucking tripling your chakra capacity in the past week, we're going to need to get even stupider with these control exercises. How the hell did you manage to not double, but triple your capacity in a week? Do you have any idea how many shinobi would kill to be able to do that? The scarecrow would probably rip out his Sharingan and hand it to you for that. Naruto grumbled as he wobbled on his needle. Fat lot of good that's doing me. I don't see that bastard needing to do this shit. Quit your belly aching. You need chakra control to learn the move I'm planning on starting you off on. It was made by the Yondaime, you know. He grinned, knowing that would light a fire under his apprentice's ass. Oh wait, that was just the actual fire under his ass. Naruto's drop jaw was the cherry on top as he wobbled precariously and tipped over. Motherfucker. Jiraiya laughed uproariously. Jiraiya would never admit this to his apprentice, but he was honestly, legitimately impressed. What had started as him merely humoring the boy's interest in nature transformation had turned into something else entirely. Kid, if I hadn't seen it I wouldn't have believed it. Over the past 2 weeks he'd watched as Naruto smashed through every single lofty aspiration the sage had for him with nothing but sheer force of will. And armies of shadow clones. Can't forget those. They had started with wind, after testing the boy's affinity. It was a pretty rare one, and he'd needed to enlist outside help on that one. He knew nothing of how to properly transform wind chakra. He and Asuma had both warned Naruto, all 500 of him, that he was better off focusing his attention on other things. He only had a month to prepare after all, and there were other things he could be working on that would give him more bang for his buck. But Naruto had gotten that stubborn glint in his eye that Jiraiya recognized so well, and so he waved the group of clones off with a groan. Jiraiya had gotten the more advanced exercises from Asuma and then said his goodbye to the bearded genin. He had then resumed his second favorite pastime, beating the holy hell out of his favorite brat. Later that same night, Naruto had split a leaf in half with only his chakra with that shit-eating grin of his almost splitting his face in half. And Jiraiya had been forced to eat his words. Naruto had smirked up at him. "It's a waste of time," he said. "You're never going to get anywhere near proficient with it in time for the exams," he said. Yeah. Jiraiya had tried waving him away to deflate his head, but Naruto had seen through his act easily enough. And 2 days later, when Naruto had split a waterfall, Jiraiya had gotten his own glint. No one who had ever known the Kage Bunshin had even close to the amount of chakra Naruto did, and Jiraiya hadn't quite realized the implications until then. Previously, he'd had Naruto practicing things that were difficult, but possible to learn in a relatively short amount of time. Even without his clones due to Orochimaru's seal, Naruto had become proficient in water walking fairly quickly. His clones had merely been speeding things up. Nature transformation was different. Even the best ninja needed years to make progress there. It was one of the most difficult shinobi practices, and one that most only took on after making genin. Naruto and his 500 clones. Jiraiya really had to stop and wonder every time he thought of that number, for it was truly absurd. Had compressed 2 years and some changes worth of training into 3 days. That was when it had truly clicked for the tall, white-haired man. His godson was going to be the strongest shinobi in history, and he'd be dragging the brat there kicking and screaming if he had to. After a good night's rest, Jiraiya had sat the boy down and started him on his next best transformation. Fire. "Alright brat, so you got wind transformation down. You make sure you keep practicing it because you're by no means a master at it." Naruto had nodded sharply. "Now, we're going to work on fire next, because now that I know how sage-blessed your stupid chakra reserves are, I'll be damned if I don't push you to the breaking point and beyond." "Bring it on, pervert." Naruto smirked. Now, the first step to fire transformation is to burn a leaf. He got a deadpan look, so Jiraiya shrugged. "What? We live in Hai no Kuni in Konohagakure. We have an abundance of the damn things. If we were in Mizu no Kuni, you'd probably be learning to boil a cup of water instead. Or something. Anyway, burn the leaf by tonight, you damn brat. I'm going to go do some research." "Oi, get back here, you damn pervert." Naruto had screamed futilely at Jiraiya's outline. "At least give me a jutsu to learn, damn it." By the end of that week, Naruto had learned fire and earth transformation, which was what led to today. "Alright brat, I'll bite." Jiraiya said dubiously. "What the hell are you doing?" Naruto again had hundreds of clones sitting around the clearing, but this time they were paired off rather than practicing on their own. Naruto blinked, losing his concentration. Both he and the clone he'd picked as his partner sat back with their palms on the dirt. What was that arrow senin? A tick mark appeared over Jiraiya's eye. "Getting ready to kick your ass from here to Suna, you damn brat." "I asked what you were doing." "Oh, well why didn't you say so?" Jiraiya let out a strangled sound. "Anyway, I'm trying to make lava." "No luck so far though." He pouted outrageously. Jiraiya's jaw dropped and his eye twitched. He even had a bit of snot dribbling from his nose, then he twitched. "Pffffffffffffff." Jiraiya started sputtering before he burst out into hysterical laughter. "Oi, what's the big deal, you pervert? And stop getting your damn spit on me." Naruto wiped his face after Jiraiya accidentally sprayed him. "How can I not laugh?" Jiraiya jeered. "Now I know you're wasting your time. Come on, brat, we have better things to do." "What do you mean?" Naruto asked indignantly. "Haku could make ice." Jiraiya had heard that name a time or two from his godson. Apparently the too pretty to be allowed boy, and hadn't that thrown Jiraiya into hysterics. Naruto had to very firmly assure his unknown godfather that he was not gay, and upon seeing a henge of the boy, Jiraiya had to admit it was a very convincing trap he'd met on his ill-fated mission to Wave had very much impressed his godson. Either way, Jiraiya shook his head. "He was born with the ability, you idiot. Combining two different natures into one new one is the stuff of bloodlines, kid. Haku had a Kekkei Genkei. You told me that yourself when you told me that story. Someone had to have figured it out first, right? The first Hokage had Mokuton, but none of the rest of his family could use it." Naruto said reasonably. Jiraiya opened his mouth and raised his finger. Then his finger curled forward and he closed his mouth, frowning. He pursed his lips back and forth in contemplation. You may have a point there, Brad. He shrugged. Well, if you make it, all it means is that I'm an awesome sensei. Bawahahaha. He laughed with his fists at his hips like an idiot. Naruto snorted, stupid arrow senin. Jiraiya stopped clowning around. Anyway, I'll leave you at it for now. We start sparring in an hour. Naruto collapsed backwards, panting. Even his legendary chakra reserves had taken a kanabo to the head at this point. There were just 5 days left until the Chunin exam finals, and Naruto had made it no closer to combining his earth and fire chakra into lava than he had been on that first day. Even he was being forced to consider the possibility that Arrow Sennin was right. He closed his eyes in sheer frustration as he lay spread eagle in the clearing. What in the hell does it take to get a breakthrough, god damn it? You're doing it wrong. Naruto's eyes popped open with a strangled gasp. The first thing he noticed was that the sky had gone from bright blue to not a sky in about 3 seconds. The second thing he noticed was that he was not laying down, but floating. What? He leapt to his feet, taking note of the large gate in front of him. His eyes widened as he took note of the paper seal on the center of the double gate doors. And then 2 massive, burning red eyes opened themselves behind the bars. Naruto sucked in air in shock. The eyes made way for a massive muzzle, as red-orange fur became visible. Its torso and especially its arms and hands were surprisingly human-like. 9 tails waved behind it, as a veritable miasma of power cloaked it. It grinned. So, we meet at last, kid. Kyuubi, Naruto said, his eyes still wide. He blinked and shook his head. What did you say? The great fox lay down with its head on its arms. I said you've been doing it wrong, kid. You're not going to get anywhere like that. What do you mean? Naruto asked, surprisingly calm for the situation. But he wasn't feeling threatened. There was the gate between them, not to mention the fact that the fox didn't seem to be making any threatening moves. The fox snorted, all you've been doing is mixing earth and fire. It chuffed, all you've been doing is smashing fire and earth together separately. Good training for them, but not your goal. You haven't been trying to make lava. Naruto blinked, rather nonplussed. I don't remember a command of lava being a part of your stories. How do you know? Kyuubi snorted. They weren't. I had no interest in the elements. That was the purview of my idiot little brother. But I saw him practicing it more than enough times to get the gist of what he was doing, back then. The fox smirked, its teeth gleaming. It would amuse me more than a small bit to have something to rub in his nose. The fox gazed down at him. To create lava requires more than just smashing the 2 affinities together. Lava is far hotter than most fires and has a different form. It is liquid. It has flow and it bubbles with trapped gases. You must think on those qualities, kid, otherwise you'll never get it. Little brother? Naruto exclaimed, having gotten a bit stuck on that point. The fox rolled its eyes. Yes, you idiot. It said condescendingly, I am but one of 9. The strongest, to be sure, but I am not alone. You've met the runt of the litter already. He's sealed inside the redhead who looks like he hasn't slept a day in his life. Naruto's jaw unhinged. All the information I gave you and that was what you focused on. Why me? The fox bemoaned. Oi! Naruto exclaimed indignantly, pointing at the fox, who summarily ignored him. Naruto made a tiny splash, glaring heatedly at the cage. He pursed his lips in irritation before deciding to return the favor. He took a breath and centered himself. In here, apparently inside his own head, or perhaps his seal, it felt easier to feel his chakra. He started off by doing what he had been doing outside. You're doing it again, the fox pointed out lazily. I know, Naruto snapped, it's easier to feel my chakra in here for some reason. I'm feeling it out for what I've been doing wrong. Touchy. The fox smirked, egging the brat on. Surprisingly, Naruto didn't take the bait. He closed his eyes again and started molding Doden in his left hand and Kaden on his right. When he clapped them together, he urged them to mix. Better, brat, but you shouldn't necessarily mix them in equal amounts. Your fire chakra needs to be much hotter than that, and you need more quantity on the earth. Remember the qualities of lava. You can't stop it. It'll melt anything in its path. An unstoppable march. You can only use its liquid nature against itself by diverting it. Finally, it was as if something had clicked inside Naruto's head. He started shunting much more chakra to his left hand while he shunted more power into his right, compressing so that it burned so much hotter. The chakra started to feel different in his hands. His eyes snapped open as he shunted the chakra from his hands into his torso, and hunched over as he spat out a blisteringly hot wave of magma. "Hey, not bad, kid." The fox started to laugh. "Take that, Son Goku." "I did it," Naruto exclaimed in shock. Why was that so easy after you helped me figure it out?" The fox settled down. "There are very few bloodlines around that are true Kekkei Genkei. Your village holds 2 of them, the Byakugan you will be facing as well as that thrice-damned Sharingan. You were right when you told the pervert that someone had to have figured out how to use elemental bloodlines, though your reasoning with the Mokuton was off. That one is special amongst the elements." It chuckled. Most elemental Kekkei Genkei started off as a single person figuring out something new. Something innovative that gave them an edge. That person kept the secrets to themselves, telling no one but their immediate family, and usually only their offspring at that. Their children would learn after hard effort, and pass it on to the next generation. And then the next. And then the next. Over time, that family's chakra would start naturally leaning towards that special element, to the point where the children no longer needed to be taught. It became as instinctual as the need to breathe for them. And because the secrets were never shared outside the clan, the myth was born that they were impossible to learn. The fact that not even that damned Sharingan could copy them only added to that legend. As I said, it takes more than just smashing 2 elements together. I don't understand. Naruto confessed. "You attacked Konoha. Every story of you said that you tried to destroy us. That you were a beast. But you clearly are more than that. Why are you being so helpful?" The Kyuubi was silent and closed its eyes. Naruto stood there, waiting for a response. He actually waited so long that he started to think the fox had actually fallen asleep. "I'm tired, kid." The fox rumbled finally. "It's been almost a century since I felt the sun on my fur, or enjoyed a breeze. For centuries me and my siblings have been hunted by you damned monkeys to be used as weapons, as if we're mindless beasts." Naruto started to feel an actual wave of anger from the previously calm fox. "We were created by a man so far above you it is like comparing an ant to a mountain. He and his brother were the very first of your kind to be born with chakra. He stopped the rampage of the Jubi, my progenitor. He ripped all of the chakra from it and sealed it into himself. He even created your moon as a prison for its husk. He was the Rikudo Sennin." Naruto stared at the fox, utterly slack-jawed. Why couldn't Iruka's history lessons be like this? Wow. Kyuubi snorted. Indeed. Even when he was dying from old age, he still had enough power to split the Jubi's chakra into 9 parts and give them life. And so the Biju were born. He told us of his desires and his dreams. The fox had a faraway look in its eyes. With his powers and abilities, he could have utterly dominated this world and subjugated the population. But he never wanted that. All he wanted was for his fellows to see the hearts of others. For there to be peace amongst you. To that end, he began spreading chakra amongst you and teaching you his philosophy, Ninshu. He wanted you all to see and feel each other's hearts, so that you could connect to each other, so that you may gain understanding of yourselves. Naruto was utterly entranced by the fox, and did not notice it get even angrier. Father was not even a corpse yet when you damned apes weaponized his beliefs and started fighting amongst yourselves. Naruto let out a gasp as a powerful blast of wind knocked him clean off his feet and onto his back. He groaned, having not been expecting that at all. The fox settled down, centuries of war passed, and we Biju grew angry as more and more of father's teachings were defiled. Anger turned to hate and disgust for your damned race, and your constant attempts to capture us earned you no favors. All of that culminated almost 100 years ago. That cursed clan of Uchiha bastards were the second strongest clan behind the Senju. Their battles lasted decades until 2 men were born. Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara. Not even Naruto was ignorant enough to not know who those 2 were. Inexplicably, after centuries of fighting amongst themselves, the 2 of them came together to create the first ninja village. They were so successful that almost every single country followed in their footsteps. For a time, even I thought that maybe, just maybe, father's dream would become a reality. Naruto looked down sadly, knowing this story at least. The fox's words were striking a chord with him. It didn't last. No, it didn't. That clan of betrayers could never sit still for too long. Madara betrayed his village and tried to destroy it. He did so by using his unnaturally powerful Sharingan to ensnare me and put me under his control. Under him, I truly was a mindless beast baying for blood. We were defeated by Hashirama and I was freed from Madara's control. His chakra was soothing, and it put me to sleep. It then growled so loudly that the chamber shook, but he decided with no input from anyone else that I was too dangerous to be allowed to roam free. Instead, he had his wife Uzumaki Mito seal me inside of herself. Naruto's eyes bugged out. What? He croaked. Did you think yourself the first, brat? No, you are the third. Naruto stared at it in slack-jawed disbelief. For decades I lived in utter isolation inside of her. Pitch black darkness. I saw nothing. I heard nothing. I had no one to communicate with. I was utterly alone. Naruto was trembling. He couldn't even begin to understand what the being in front of him had gone through. The words caught in his throat. My second container was in some ways better and some ways worse. When Mito was about to pass, she sealed me inside another young red-headed woman. Uzumaki Kushina, your mother. Naruto's legs gave out from under him. And my mom? You knew her? The Kyuubi snorted. Knew is a strong word. I could at least see the outside world in her seal. I was no longer in pitch-black isolation, and she even talked to me on occasion. Perhaps if I hadn't had a stake through my chest, feet, hands, and one for each tail crucifying me against a boulder, I may even have been inclined to be civil with her. Naruto cringed. Then something strange happened. A female Jinchuriki's seal weakens when she goes through childbirth. Naruto blanched, turning as white as paper. The fox didn't let him interrupt again. I learned that during my one burst of light while inside Mito. With the Yondaime there and considering his expertise, I should have remained confined. With that man there was zero chance of the seal breaking. But for some reason, it did. Instead of remaining confined, I found myself in the outside world for the first time in decades under another fucking Sharingan illusion. You got to be shitting me. Why is that stupid pink eye so dumb? How can it control even you? Naruto growled. It originated from father's thrice damned son. The damn thing practically has a back door into our minds. Only the strongest can overcome our will, but unfortunately, if you were that strong, there's little we can do unless someone else snaps us out of it. Kyuubi growled. The mandate I was forced to follow was simple. Destroy Konoha. Bastard. Naruto couldn't help but bite out. Your Yondaime must have gotten the better of the accursed Uchiha who took control of me. He claimed to be Madara himself, but I knew better. His control faded from me, and for the first time in almost a century I was free. It roared again, its tails beginning to wave excitedly and smack off the walls, making the chamber shake. Naruto drew back and put his arm in front of his face to keep the spray from hitting him, as well as keeping him from being blown away. Finally, it stopped, and Naruto peeked at the fox. The excitement was gone, and it just looked defeated, and that was when I made my worst mistake. I forgot all of father's teachings. I forgot the reason his two sons started fighting and kicked off centuries of bloodshed. All I wanted was revenge on the bastards who had locked me away and threw the key away. I could have left, could have been free, but instead, I gave in to my hatred and continued rampaging. And now we find ourselves here. I'm once again sealed away after a brief spot of hope, and this time I don't even have the privilege of being whole anymore. Your Yondaime took my yin half with him. The fox just sounded bitter. The most bitter Naruto had ever heard anyone sound in his entire life. That's why your chakra control is so shit, brat. You get my chakra filtered into your own via the seal, but you only get yang. You're unbalanced, just like me. It raised a paw. I was twice the size I am now before your Yondaime stole half of me away. Naruto stalled out, really don't know what to say. What can I say that wouldn't sound stupid? HMPH. Kyuubi snorted. Not much to say, is there? Nothing that wouldn't sound like an empty platitude. It sighed. At least I'm not staked to a rock this time. Do you get to see outside of me? He asked curiously. I do. Kyuubi stared at him. Better if you use my chakra, obviously. Then here's a promise. Naruto said, if I meet the asshole who keeps enslaving you, you can watch me beat their ass. He pounded a fist into an open palm. Kyuubi stared at him for a moment, before it burst out laughing. Shit kid. You can't even beat the old man. Naruto scowled, but hey, a busted Sharingan is a good Sharingan. What the hell? You actually manage it, and I might even start to like you. Naruto grinned. You got a name, Fox? Maybe one day you'll even earn it, brat. Jiraiya swung at Naruto's head, and the boy vanished. He reappeared behind Jiraiya, leg prepped for a kick. He swung his leg, aiming to take off Jiraiya's head, but Jiraiya copied him and slammed his geta into Naruto's back. Naruto was sent flying into the ground, and Jiraiya stomped on him. Getting better, brat. I almost felt the wind with that last one. Naruto grinned, and Jiraiya vanished right before Naruto exploded. Ahaha. I didn't think you'd get that one so fast, brat. He absently reached behind him and caught the punch aimed at his kidney. But, I didn't say you could use ninjutsu. Slam. Naruto groaned pitifully as his back hit the floor from his mentor's throw. A few minutes later, they were balanced on top of the slabs again, but this time Naruto only wobbled minutely even as he managed small, planned movements to stretch out the kinks. Jiraiya looked on fondly. Alright kid. I've shown you how to fight, I've shown you techniques, and I've shown you patience. Now, I need to tell you about your most important weapon. Your mind. What mind? Naruto snarked, so Jiraiya rolled his eyes. Don't sell yourself short, kid. Sure, I doubt you'll ever be able to decipher a really complex cryptogram for me, or really get deep into genjutsu, but you've got a good head on your shoulder for battle. He grinned, and from what I've heard, you're a king of pranks. He laughed at Naruto's shocked expression. Remember this, Naruto, because it's one of the most important things you'll ever hear from me. If you can make a ninja question himself, he will lose. If you get in an opponent's head, if you make them angry, if you make them doubt, you will have won your fight before it's even begun. Never reveal your full skill set if you don't need to. Everyone knows I'm the Toad Sage and one of the foremost Fuinjutsu experts in the world, so they expect me to use techniques dealing with that. Everyone expects me to use a fire attack combined with a toad oil bullet. Not many know that I can bury a 10-story building in a swamp with ninjutsu. Practically no one knows that I can demolish platoons of ninja with a simple E-rank jutsu. Hell, I got information out of reasonably seasoned enemy ninja by tickling it out of them. Naruto laughed, so he paused. He waited until he had his apprentice's full attention again, and chuckled himself at the memories. Everyone knows that I go crazy over women, so they all expect to be able to get me out of the way by using that against me. He laughed. The last fool who tried that not only paid for my very pleasant time with 10 young, beautiful ladies, but took a kunai to the gut by a ninja who he expected to be completely distracted with whoring around and drinking sake. Naruto grinned at that. Now, remember this. Always make them underestimate you. If they're why, they'll make mistakes. If they're angry, they'll make mistakes. If they're afraid, you can be damn sure that they'll make mistakes. Prank them. Show them one completely obvious technique so that they'll never know they were fighting a clone the entire time. Throw a single shuriken, so that when they prepare to dodge, you'll either multiply them into a wall of death or release your henge and stick a kunai in their forehead. Get in their heads. Get them with a technique once, and then fake them out and watch as they jump around wildly trying to avoid non-existent techniques. Let them think they've won, and then come out and crush their dreams and their bodies. Can you really take out full platoons with an E-rank? Naruto asked. Jiraiya laughed the hardest he'd seen in days. When I was a kid, I invented a jutsu that would turn my body transparent so that I blend in with any surface. I used to use it for peeping, of course. He cackled, much to Naruto's chagrin. Hell, I invented it for that. It's E-rank because of its chakra requirement, or lack thereof, and that a tap will make it fail. And you can't use any chakra during it, or any idiot will know exactly where you are. But none of that matters if you walk right into an enemy camp in the middle of the night and drop off a stack of annihilation-grade explosive notes set with a 5-minute timer. He grinned at his godson's look of awe. Naruto tore the meat off of the chicken leg he was eating hungrily. He was already on his 15th one, which gave Jiraiya a bit of pause as he reached for one of the fish held over the crackling campfire. Where the hell do you put it all, brat? Naruto simply shot him a deadpan look. You haven't let me eat anything since last night, ya perverted bastard. Jiraiya laughed and leaned back, staring up at the full moon with a grin. Not my fault you suck so bad. Naruto shook his fist at him angrily and Jiraiya laughed again. They sat in companionable silence for a while, the only sound being the crackling fire next to them and the munching of food. Naruto finally had his fill of food, so he lay back as well, hands behind his head. Nay, Ero Sennin, you going to be watching me kick ass tomorrow? Jiraiya grumbled a bit. I still say you shouldn't call me that, brat. Naruto only smirked at him. I would, but the old man asked me to take care of something important for him. He trailed off as he noticed the smirk fall from his apprentice's face and sadness overtake his eyes. Oh. Naruto looked away, hating the way his voice sounded so weak at that moment. Jiraiya clapped his hand on Naruto's shoulder. I'll send a clone, brat. I really wanted to be there to watch you win that tournament, but I still have to follow orders. He smirked at his downtrodden apprentice, but Sarutobi-sensei is insane if he thinks I'll miss seeing you stomp the Hyuga brat into the ground. Naruto smiled a bit, and don't worry brat, when all this is over, I'll be teaching you a very powerful new technique. Naruto laughed a bit, thanks Ero Sennin. Just remember, if you do anything that costs you that vest, or, kami forbid, lose, I will make you regret it. Jiraiya paused, and Naruto watched as something flashed in his eyes. One more thing brat. I can't tell you why, but be extremely alert tomorrow. What, more than usual? Why? Naruto questioned. Drop it brat. I shouldn't have even mentioned it in the first place, but I did. Remember, keep 3 eyes open and your ears to the ground. He ruffled his blonde hair, now sleep. Naruto didn't even have time to protest as he passed out. A couple people in the stadium stand were getting ready to pull out their hair. Arg, where are they? Sakura screeched. There were only a few minutes to the start of the final exam, and not only was Naruto missing, but more importantly, so was Sasuke-kun. Give it up forehead. Ino chuckled. It looks like Mr. Hokage got scared and isn't going to show up to fight that Hyuga kid. Sakura shot her a glare, which was ignored. It's too bad. I was actually looking forward to the fight. Naruto looked so serious back then in the preliminaries. Sakura held her tongue and looked down, studiously ignoring her old friend. Down in the field, Neji was smirking arrogantly. Looks like Uzumaki has acknowledged his fate as a loser. He won't show up. Most of the other genin gave the arrogant Hyuga disgusted looks. Up in the stands, Sarutobi was greeting the Kage, who also commented on the missing shinobi. Well, it seems that there are only 6 there. He took his seat. I'm not surprised that Uzumaki-kun isn't here. He is facing a Hyuga after all. His haughty tone angered Sarutobi, but he held his tongue. But that Uchiha-kun is missing surprises me. I had hoped to see him fight Madara. Sarutobi sighed. I guess it can't be helped for now. After all, their sensei is Hitaki Kakashi. He tilted his hat down. I had so hoped that they wouldn't pick up this habit from him, but I guess my wishes are in vain. But I'm afraid you are wrong about Uzumaki-kun. He grinned at his fellow Kage. There he is now. He stared at the sky, before a large figure hopped over the wall. What? Sakura and Ino gasped as the figure rocketed towards the center of the stadium. It landed with a crash, throwing up a cloud of dust. What is that thing? Sakura exclaimed, to which Ino answered, it's so big. The surprised genin jumped back, even as Genma chewed on his senbon absently with a dull look in his eyes. Neji glared at the smoke cloud, having seen the figure on top of it right before the landing. The smoke cleared, revealing Naruto standing there with his arms crossed and a large smirk on his face on top of a rhino-sized toad that wore 2 katana on its back. He had changed his clothing style, wearing a black pair of shinobi pants that were bound to his legs by white and orange greaves, and tied up by an orange sash around his waist. Like his teacher, he had simple wooden geta on his feet with no socks, and was also sporting a new sleeveless jacket, black with orange flames down the sides, which was zipped up to mid-sternum. He had a pair of arm guards that matched his greaves as well. Naruto stepped off the toad he was on, not bothering to uncross his arms. Never fear, Uzumaki-sama is here. He smirked specifically at Neji, and he's about to kick all of your asses. Ino had her jaw dropped. Sakura was blubbering, and Hinata's face was as red as a tomato. Whoa, he actually looks kinda cool like that. Ino muttered to herself. Beside them, Kiba was laughing. Looks like Naruto has some new tricks up his sleeves. He better beat that Neji for what he did to Hinata, or I'm kicking his ass. He studiously ignored the fact that Naruto had taken him out the last time they rumbled. Hinata poked her fingers together shyly. Gee, good luck Naruto-kun. Sakura finally regained herself and smiled. Good luck Naruto. She screamed down at him. He glanced up at her, surprise in his eyes. She's cheering me on. He smiled. Hey, looks like I'm already getting acknowledged a bit. He waved at her before turning to Neji, as everyone else got off of the field except for Genma. Hear that, Neji? They're cheering for me. He smirked. I don't need to say it again, but I will anyway. You're going down. Neji scoffed. Losers like you stand no chance against me. He took his gentle fist stance. That is your fate. You won't be walking away from here. Genma stood between them. Remember, there are no rules. You go until I say so, or until one of you forfeits and/or dies. Naruto waved him off confidently, and it won't be me. Neji scowled at his declaration. Very well, begin, Genma yelled. Naruto finally uncrossed his arms. You ready to lose, Neji? Kage Bunshin. A cloud of smoke appeared, and when it cleared, all three of the Naruto standing there were holding windmill shuriken. As Genma hopped out of the way of the two Chunin hopefuls, Izumo and Kotetsu readied themselves up in the stands to take notes on the fight. Kotetsu muttered, too bad for the Uzumaki kid. Bad luck on the draw, don't you think? Izumo chuckled, perhaps, but he is clearly more confident than he used to be. Let's see if whatever he's got will be enough for a promotion. I doubt it. He was so unskilled during the preliminaries, and he barked about the same amount. Kotetsu laughed outright at the thought. His smirk was wiped off his face at Naruto's jutsu. Huh, that's a Jonin-level technique, and he doesn't seem even a bit winded. What a surprise, Izumo said. His partner scowled. Looks like he isn't as hopeless as everyone said. And he looks like he's realized that Neji should be kept at range with that taijutsu of his. I wonder if he is any good with those windmill shuriken? All of the Naruto there threw their shuriken, but one jumped high in the air to get an angle on Neji. Neji dodged them all easily. Two lodged into the stadium wall, and one cut into the tree right behind Neji. Neji scoffed, fool, learn your place. Fate has decreed that I will be the victor today, he said arrogantly. Naruto laughed. Fate, that's just the excuse of someone weak. Don't look down on me. Naruto yelled as the windmill behind Neji poofed into another clone. Neji's eyes widened in surprise as he quickly spun around, confidently catching the clone's outstretched leg. He wished he hadn't. Gah! He yelled as he was sent flying through the air, clutching his sore hand. That was almost as strong as one of Lee's kicks. He thought in pain as he dug into the ground and rolled to his feet. He shook his hand to get the feeling back into it. I got why trying to do that, because he is a loser. I won't make the same mistake twice. He activated his Byakugan this time, so he could watch both marks and make use of his Tenketsu accuracy. Naruto grinned as he held his fists up and bounced on his 2 feet. Come on, Mr. Hyuga-sama. Where's all that bravado now, you arrogant Sonova bitch? His clones took off, rushing Neji from all sides, including the 2 that had been the other windmills until now. They closed in, fists raised when Neji started to glow and then spun. A perfectly contained, spherical whirlwind sprang up at Neji's position, destroying all of the Naruto clones easily. Kaiten, fool, you can't get through my ultimate defense. He held his hand out, taking his stance again. Before the power of the Hyuga, all your tricks are worth. Neji was forced to dodge out of the way as an absurdly fast, crackling beam of pure white lightning screamed towards him. He fell to the ground to avoid it, and saw it impact the tree behind him with his Byakugan. The beam cut right through the bark like a hot knife through butter. The tree tipped as it stopped being able to support itself, and started falling towards the downed Hyuga. Shit, he jumped to his feet and dove sideways, just barely avoiding the falling trunk. Crash! He stared in shock at Naruto, whose index and middle fingers of his right hand were outstretched in his direction and crackling with electric discharge. Raiden. Byakurai. The smirking blonde said calmly. Holy crap, now he's throwing out elemental jutsu too? Kiba gaped. What the hell happened since the last month? I have no idea. Sakura looked odd, but I'm jealous. Where did Kakashi-sensei take him and Sasuke-kun? And why did he not even leave me some scrolls? You don't think he can actually? Ino hesitated. Win, do you? I mean, it's Naruto. Hey, I don't think we should count him out. Kiba grinned as Akamaru barked in agreement. Neji scowled as Naruto spoke. Ultimate defense, huh? The blonde was grinning madly. Why'd you dodge, then? Neji snorted. Don't be why, loser. He stared imperiously down his nose at Naruto. It's plain that there is a small startup window for Arcaden, or at least my relatively low mastery of it. Now that I know to expect your tricks, I'll be more prepared. That was your one shot. That's so? Naruto cracked his neck and held his right hand out, with his fingers slightly clawed. You sure like telling me what I can and can't do. His grin got toothier, so here's what you're going to do. You're going to use your little ballerina move, and I'm— Dense chakra started to form in his palm, with a light whistling sound ringing as a ball of swirling blue chakra appeared in his palm. Going to break it? In the stands, hundreds of shinobi stood up in shock, and Genma's senbon straight up fell from his lips. In the cage booth, Sarutobi sat stock still, staring at the blonde in shock. His outfit had already been quite a reminder, but this? What in the world had Naruto been doing the past few years if a month was all it took to get him to this point? Ino looked around, shocked. What's the big deal? Why is everyone standing up? Asuma wasn't satisfied with just one. He had a second cigarette in his mouth. That technique. What is it? Kiba asked cluelessly. That, Kurenai breathed, is the signature technique of the Yondaime Hokage. Even the genin that weren't from Konoha dropped their jaws. What? Neji started to say, but Naruto cut him off. Here I come, Neji. He took off, the ground cracking beneath his feet as he closed the distance in the blink of an eye. Kaden, Neji yelled, flowing into his spin. The whirling blue dome formed around him. Rasengan, Naruto yelled, and thrust his arm forward. His tiny ball of chakra acted more like a drill than anything, grinding into the Kaden and causing Neji to expend chakra at a rapid rate. The ball destabilized the second it broke through Neji's defense, and Naruto let the rest of the chakra dissipate as he clenched his fist. Wham! Naruto's fist pounded into Neji's cheek, throwing him over and sending him sliding backwards into the dirt, his body digging a trench through it as he flipped and flopped. He finally slowed to a stop, and struggled to get to his feet, truly thrown for a loop. The crowd erupted into cheering. It was so loud that the ground started to quake minutely. What? Neji panted as he got to his feet, touching his face, and wincing from the pain. I told you, Neji. There is no such thing as an ultimate defense. I'll break any wall you put in front of me. He laughed, causing Neji's blood to boil. I said I would beat you, and that's exactly what's going to happen. And one day, you'll be calling me Hokage just like everyone else. Neji growled at the declaration and rushed at the blonde. You damned fool. He screamed, sounding almost deranged, you can't fight fate. Only a lucky few are ever born into the role of Hokage. Having dreams come true through hard work is an illusion. Neji rushed forward, throwing palm strikes. Naruto stood there and blocked with his forearm. Neji's eyes widened as he sprang back. Those bracers of his are going to be a problem. Why can't I get chakra through them? He rushed and attacked again, paying attention to the bracer this time. No, the chakra is getting through, but it loses all its force and cohesiveness. There's something weird about them, but now I know I have to hit him elsewhere. Neji started throwing wildly fast palm attacks, aiming to seal Naruto's tenketsu. Naruto dodged with blazing speed or blocked with his bracers when he couldn't, laughing the entire time. You're the fool, Neji. You give up without even trying. You think you're so good, that you're blessed by destiny. You look down on others who are trying their best. Naruto's laughter turned derisive. You've been passed by Neji. You don't carry any of that will of fire in you. Naruto blurred from sight and drilled Neji in the side of the head. Slow. Thank you, Arrow Sennin. Naruto flipped 6 kunai out of his pockets and 4 into the air, springing forward. Just as he was reaching the recovered Neji, he threw his body into a roll and pushed up with his arms, thrusting both feet at Neji's face. The genius dodged and barely avoided the incoming kunai as Naruto shot past him, spinning with his arms extended. He saw kunai attach themselves to his feet as Naruto sprang forward again. Shit. He took a kunai from his pocket to block the hits coming from Naruto's wild limbs. Naruto ducked, rolled, sprang up in weird corkscrews, and flipped his way towards Neji. He would come towards him and randomly switch kunai, trying to come in from awkward angles. Sometimes, he would spin them by the reins, causing Neji no small issue as he fought to read the strikes. His kunai danced in the air, never once hitting the ground as for each one that was knocked away from him, a new one took its place. Neji blocked one and knocked it into the air, but his opponent would merely flip, and he'd be faced with a new weapon on a new limb, even as new kunai were caught and tossed, sometimes into the air, and sometimes launched at him with chakra. He was used to dealing with weapons due to his teammate, but this was on a whole other level. His person was already filled with paper-thin cuts from grazes and near misses. He could barely read the attacks because the spinning of the blades disorientated his eyes slightly, and at this point his bloodline was doing more harm than good, so he turned it off. He couldn't afford to even try to use Jukin, because the second he let himself get close, he'd be hit. It was a constant game of dodging and retreating, trying to get distance only to be closed in on in seconds. Blades flashed and he ducked, and realized with a sinking feeling that he'd done the wrong thing. The flash had come from Naruto's right leg springing up and launching the kunai, so he ducked. Now, his head was directly below an incoming heel. He only had time to mutter an exasperated, "Crap," as Naruto's heels slammed into the crown of his head with a loud crack. Picture-perfect axe kick. Neji saw the attack coming from a mile away, so it only made him feel worse when he couldn't do a damn thing to block it. His face dug into the floor and caused a small trench as he scraped along the ground. Gah, what power! Who is this kid? He's nothing like he was during the preliminaries. He trembled a bit as he got to his feet, panting and a little hunched over. Still, he fought through it, determined to show this nobody that he was correct. It doesn't matter. People's fates guide them through life. It is what binds us all and cages us. You can't fight fate, and fate has determined that I will win here. Up in the stands, both Izumo and Kotetsu were staring in awe. Holy shit. What happened to that kid? Kage Bunshin? Byakurai? Rasengan? Who the hell taught him those? How did he get so fast? The Hyuga have some of the best taijutsu in the village. I could tell that he was getting hit despite that. Those blades and his actual technique is so unorthodox. Kotetsu answered, "You've noticed it too, haven't you, Izumo? He's not only beating him at his own game, but he's getting in his head too. This can't be the same kid we saw a month ago." Quote, "Oh yeah, if he keeps this up, he's going to be up for a promotion for sure." In another section of the stadium, most of the genin were just slack-jawed in awe. Sakura and Ino in particular were completely wide-eyed. Kiba was howling with laughter, saying, "I told y'all losers not to underestimate Naruto." Hinata was blushing as she saw how much her idol had improved. Holy cow, forehead. Why didn't Naruto show all of this skill off in the preliminaries? Ino turned to Sakura, who was practically shaking in awe. He was never this good before. How the hell does someone get this good in only a month? I know he wasn't hiding his strength or anything like that. It's Naruto, so how? Neji sprang forward, spinning in the air and forming a bright blue sphere around his body in an attempt to catch Naruto inside of it. Naruto evaded, mentally thanking his teacher for the past month. Man, I really got to get Ero Sennin something nice. I would have been dead if he hadn't been beating my ass around for the past month. Neji fell out of the aerial Kaden and launched a heavy palm strike filled with chakra at Naruto's heart. Naruto chopped his wrist hard with his forearm and spun. The parry had left Neji slightly off balance, and he only barely dodged the spinning back elbow that hurtled towards him. He jumped back to avoid the follow-up spinning back kick and sprang forward again, aiming for the blonde's neck. Naruto simply laughed as he caught his wrist and kicked him in the chest. Neji released chakra directly from his diaphragm to spear Naruto's foot, but again it failed to penetrate. He was sent flying, but landed on his feet. "Hey, quick question, Neji." He grinned. "What do you call a guy who has super fancy eyes that can see everything, but they can't see past their own nose?" Neji snarled in response, "Oh yeah, blind." People in the audience, especially the two arrogant main house members who had come to watch Neji destroy the competition, stiffened in anger and shock. That was a very bad accusation to make towards a fellow ninja, especially one with a dojutsu-based Kekkei Genkei. Naruto started stalking forward calmly, the grin that had become a permanent fixture on his face no longer present, all of that power of sight, all of the seeing capabilities that those fancy eyes give you, and you can't see what's right in front of you. People like you are supposed to help others, help them grow as people, help them develop their skills so that they'll reach greater heights. But all I see from you so-called prodigies and geniuses is arrogance. You tried to kill own cousin. You tore her down emotionally, and with no regard for how she felt or how hard she tried. You put her down despite all of the effort she showed in trying to improve herself. He ran forward, acting like he was going to punch his opponent. The second Neji committed to a counter, he leapt back and fired a wind bullet that slammed into Neji's gut, causing spittle to fly from his mouth. You insult everyone and constantly put them down. You belittle Lee, who is one of the kindest and most determined people I've ever met. He's your teammate. He is one of the strongest and fastest people I've ever seen, and you can't spare even a good job, Lee, or a you're improving, Lee. You belittle him and put his dream down every time he challenges you, simply because you think he's a loser. Simply because you think he's lower than you since he's a no-name. Wake the fuck up. Naruto delivered a hard knee to his sternum, and then let him go, allowing Neji to try to stumble back. Naruto didn't let him go anywhere. He started slamming fist after fist into his opponent, cackling all the while as little droplets of blood hung in the air after each impact, every one of which Neji could see but was powerless to stop. I don't know what happened to make you like this, but you're an utter bastard, Neji. Main house? Branch house? I don't give a damn about any of that shit. An uppercut sent Neji soaring into the air. Naruto spat on the ground and blurred, appearing above him and kicking him back down. Neji's body hit the ground with a loud thud. Naruto fell back to the floor. Pieces of shit like you, who call others losers, will never beat someone like me. Neji snapped, digging into his pouch, and popping a soldier pill. He felt himself get re-energized and he stood, brushing himself off with a bit of difficulty. You'll never understand, dropout, but if it will make you realize the difference between us, then I'll tell you. I'll tell you exactly about the Hyuga destiny of hatred. Hiyashi Hyuga sighed, catching his daughter's attention. He looked sadly down at the field. I truly am sorry, Neji. The Hyuga main family has, for as long as can be remembered, passed down a special ninjutsu. A curse seal ninjutsu. Neji reached up to undo the tie of his hite-8 as Naruto looked on without an expression on his face. This seal jutsu represents our caged selves, our inescapable destinies. He lowered his hands, revealing a manji with hooked ends carved onto his forehead. I was 4 when this cursed mark was etched onto me. That was the same day that Kumo had come to sign a peace treaty with us. Our Hyuga clan was the only one missing from the proceedings, because our heiress had just turned 3. Neji scowled, staring up into the stands at his clan's leader. My father and Hinata's father were identical twins. Practically everything about them had been the same, but because Hiyashi-sama was born first, he had the honor of being raised in the main house while my father was shuffled off to the branch house. The protectors of the main house. We are meant to be simple bodyguards, no matter the talent difference. And through this curse seal, we are forced to obey. Naruto took this in stride, not an emotion on his face, but when my father was teaching me of this, while we were watching one of Hinata-sama's practices with her father, my father was tortured in front of me through this seal for no reason at all. Neji had been young when this had happened. He had not noticed his father's rage and killing intent, even if Hiyashi had. This seal is the absolute fear of death any Hyuga of the branch house faces, because with a single seal, our minds can be destroyed through pain. When we die, our Byakugan are sealed up through it, releasing us from the curse only then. It is a system created to protect our advanced blood from all those who wish to acquire it. Including those bastards from Kumo. Neji looked down, because of the incident that occurred not long after, hehe. Neji couldn't help but laugh. There was no mirth, but it was a laugh all the same. My father was killed by the main branch. Hinata-sama was kidnapped one night, and the intruder was swiftly taken care of by Hiyashi-sama. It was the leader of the Konoha Kumo delegation. Kumo denied all involvement in any kidnapping, and threatened to restart the war if Konoha did not present Hiyashi-sama's unmarked corpse. Neji broke down, laughing hysterically. War was safely avoided. All thanks to my father, who replaced Hiyashi-sama as the son of a former clan head given to Kumo. Ha ha ha. To escape this curse, this fate all of us share, there is only death. Their strengths were identical, but because my father was born second, his fate was sealed, just as mine was. He had retied his hite-8, and he took his Jukin stance once more. You know nothing of fate. Nothing of inescapable curses. That is why your fate was decided when I became your opponent. Other genin looked at Hinata in horror. Hinata refused to look away from the battle, no matter how many tears leaked from her eyes. Her hands were clenched and shaking. Neji Nisan. Her voice was too soft to be heard, but Kiba understood anyway. He clenched his fist in helpless anger. Naruto stared. You done? Neji, as well as a lot of people in the audience, recoiled. For the first time in the entire match, Naruto sounded well and truly angry. Sure, He had sounded like it when he had been smashing Neji into the ground, but that had been part of his, "this is why you suck," speech. Now, he actually looked like he was boiling mad. Quite a few in the stands muttered, "Heartless," at him. Neji shook in anger. What was that? Naruto took a breath with closed eyes, and centered himself again as Jiraiya had taught him. "So your father died to protect his brother and your clan's secrets. Yeah, that sucks, Neji, and it sucks that you have that little mark on your forehead, but that doesn't make you any less of a bastard." He opened his eyes and crossed his arms. "But at least you have a family. At least you knew your father, and you knew that he loved you. I had no one growing up, Neji. Not a damn soul to comfort me or to tell me that I had done a good job in my training." His eyes flashed, "And I can still say that I turned out a better person than you." Neji snarled at that. "You're just a fool who can't see the truth. You could never understand what it's like to be burdened with a symbol you can never be rid of." He roared at his enemy. Practically the entire adult population of the stadium flinched. Sarutobi lowered his head in grief. "Forgive me, Minato, Kushina." Naruto stood stock still for a second, remembering days in the past, where he would be alone in a playground with parents looking down upon him and taking their children away. He remembered crying, as those people never saw him, but only a shadow of a beast where his own should have been. He grasped the zipper of his jacket and yanked it down. Neji stepped back as he saw black ink on Naruto's stomach. "Wow, what the hell is that?" He pointed as Naruto shrugged the jacket off his body and held it in one hand. "A seal, just like yours." He threw his jacket, which, instead of floating in the wind like a normal jacket, fell to the floor with a crash. People in the stadium in the know were reminded of Rock Lee's weights as the plume that rose was of a comparable height. Said Genin's eyes flashed, along with his teachers, and a resounding cry of "Youth" was heard round the stadium. Naruto chuckled as he bared his inked flesh for the whole stadium to see. "Can't say I really think of it as a curse anymore. Though back when I learned the reason for its existence, I certainly did. After all, the entire village hated me because of it. Who cared if I was a baby or a kid who couldn't have been at fault for anything? I was the easy target." Neji actually flinched at that, though whether it was in surprise or anger was a mystery. Though he wasn't the only one. There was a lot of guilt coming from a whole lot of people. "What the hell? What is that seal?" Who knows?" Naruto smirked. "I don't really care if you figure it out, but I'm not about to say it. Don't know if it's actually allowed." He stretched, "But the point is, so what if I'm marked in a way that makes others dislike me? So what if people can't see past this seal? I'll never give up, and one day everyone will acknowledge me. One day, I'll be Naruto the Hokage, rather than that kid that everyone secretly fears." "Now enough blabbering, Neji." His grin returned full force. "I have a can of ass whoop right here with your name on it. If you can't take it, then take a break. When I'm Hokage, I'll change the Hyuga my damn self." He rushed forward, and this time Neji was ready for him. "You are within my range of divination," he roared. Katetsu groaned. "He's lost his mind. Even if you're faster and stronger, you never rush a Hyuga. Man, and he was looking so promising too." Izumo chuckled, not taking his eyes off the fight. "But you heard him right? I think that by now, we should expect the unexpected with this kid." Neji waited for the opportune moment, before he leapt forward and threw Naruto's Y charge. His speed, which hadn't been all too impressive during the preceding fight, suddenly increased tenfold. Two palms. He struck Naruto twice and twin bursts of chakra exited the back of his opponent, for pow. And that was when Neji realized that Naruto had his hand in a death grip. Naruto smirked, throwing the Hyuga genius off with his confident attitude. Boom. And with that, Naruto's entire body turned into electricity which converged on Neji, who screamed in agony. He fell to the floor panting as the lightning dissipated, and lay there, twitching. Next to him, Naruto rose out of the rock under them. Raiden Kage Bunshin, success. He crouched down next to Neji. "You alive over there, bastard?" Despite the shock he had received, Neji managed to wheeze out, "Yo, your main ninjutsu. How careless of me. When did you do that?" Naruto chuckled. "I've had that clone under the ground since I formed those windmill shuriken. All I needed was an opportunity, and an excuse, to use it." That was quite a nasty technique there, Neji. He looked at his defeated, gobsmacked, and shaking opponent. "Now while you're lying there at my feet, I have something to tell you. I failed the academy a grand total of 3 times, right? Neji nodded with difficulty. Yeah, that is what I've heard. Naruto nodded. Now, I wasn't a good student. Honestly, I was a little asshole, doing little kitty ninja shit thinking big techniques were all that mattered. School was boring and I hated it because it wasn't interesting. And by my 3rd go around, I had stopped paying attention to them tell us the same shit over and over again. But I wasn't so bad that I was failing everything. Every time, it was one single part of the exam that threw me into the failing range. Do you want to know what that failing of mine was? Neji only could rasp, and Naruto laughed heartily. I could not then, and still cannot make a bunshin to save my damn life. Neji slumped even further into the ground at this bit of information. Somehow. So don't give me any bullshit about fate controlling your actions, Neji. Stop whining about stupid shit like that. He got up and started walking away. The only fate anyone should respond to is the one they make for themselves. Genma laughed as Neji was picked up by the medics and carried out of the stadium. I've been completely defeated. Despite this, Neji smiled genuinely for the first time in a long while. Winner, Uzumaki Naruto. Genma yelled as Naruto slung his jacket over his right shoulder and looked up at the northwest wall of the stadium. A white-haired man was standing there with a thumbs up and a cheeky grin on his face. Naruto grinned back, before the clone burst into smoke. He turned away and as he jumped up to the box containing all the other Chunin hopefuls, all he could hear was the tremendous applause. Naruto's grin was infectious, as almost everyone in the genin box smiled or stood to congratulate him. Yo! Yahoo! Kiba yelled as he sprang up to him, fist out. Man Naruto, where the hell was all that talent when we fought? Akamaru barked in agreement. Hiding in a ditch somewhere. Naruto shrugged helplessly before bumping fists with his old academy skipping buddy. I had decent personal training for once, despite everything. Did Kakashi take you and Sasuke for training Naruto? Sakura came up to him. Why didn't you take me too? She half whined, half growled. Naruto barked out some laughter. Kakashi? Nah, Cyclops took Sasuke and ran off to prepare him to fight Gaara. Something or other about him having the more dangerous opponents or that Neji wouldn't kill me or whatever. Naruto scowled, probably didn't think I had a chance, that bastard. The Jonin in attendance blinked, that was irresponsible of him. Neji did try to kill Hinata after all, and we had to jump in to stop him. Kurenai scowled, when I get my hands on that lazy ass. So, he left you with nothing then? Asuma's eyes narrowed at that thought. Naruto waved him off. Nah, he's not that bad. He fobbed me off to that closet perv Ebisu-sensei, who at least showed me water walking before he got knocked out by my actual sensei. Suddenly, a light weight attached itself to his back. And who was your sensei Naruto-kun? Said weight was blonde, and her name was Ino. Naruto would have blushed if he hadn't been spending the last month with Jiraiya. The super perv. And since when am I a kun, Ino? He laughed at the looks of incomprehension. Well, on the genin at least. Said blonde colored slightly. Naruto? Sakura shook her fist at him menacingly. You better not have been perving around. Naruto shook his head. Sakura-chan. I just curb stomped the so-called strongest Konoha genin. After barely beating Kiba a month ago. Do you really think I was doing anything besides getting trained into a nice comfy crater? Sakura blushed and lowered her fist. When she looked away, Naruto let out a silent breath of relief. Damn arrow senin. A tick grew on Ino's head at being basically ignored. She tightened her grip on Naruto warningly, and does this super pervert have a name, or are we just going to have to guess? Naruto laughed. Guess. He took his seat, much to Ino's embarrassment since he was now sitting on her. Ack, you're heavy, jerk. She shoved him. Get off. Geez, how do you weigh so much? Sorry, forgot about the weights. Naruto scratched the back of his head as he took a seat properly. You're still wearing them? Kiba shouted, but you're not wearing the coat. The blonde grinned, the coat was extra. Most of the weight is on me via Fuinjutsu. He showed his wrist, which had a seal on it. Damn, Sakura huffed. Wish I had gone with you. The past month was so boring. The lot of them started to chat as they awaited the next match. Ah, Hokage-sama? It appears that the young Uchiha is not here yet. Sarutobi had to refrain from gnashing his teeth at the message from one of his Chunin. Damn you, Kakashi. He let out a sigh. It would be favoritism if I pushed back his match. By all rights, an irresponsible brat like that should be not only disqualified, but punished as well. But many of us in attendance, including myself, have only come to see this particular fight, Hokage Dono. The case cage said to his host. On the outside, he was the picture of tranquility, but on the inside, he was already analyzing the words. So, now I know that you will not start this war without the young Uchiha here, Orochimaru. Very well, I'll play your game. Besides, I'll feel more at peace knowing Kakashi is here. He eyed his former student. Well, he drawled, I don't know. The brat is being very disrespectful, and might have forfeited altogether. I doubt it. That Uchiha pride is legendary even in Suna. His former student, confident that his ruse was working, was nonchalant about it. Sarutobi sighed, so be it. Push the match back, but go and tell our graders not to bother with him. The Chunin nodded and vanished, causing a smirk to rise to Orochimaru's lips, hidden by his veil. Huh? The match is getting pushed back? Of course, Sasuke would get better treatment. Naruto grumbled, and took a whop from Ino. Don't talk about Sasuke-kun like that. He may have gotten hotter, but she'd be damned if she let him badmouth her crush. Ino-chan, what was that for? Naruto whined, though he was still grinning. Sides, we get to see lazy-ass fight Ms. Wind over here. He eyed Temari, even as Shikamaru mumbled something or other. Ino smirked, get down there Shika, or I'll make Naruto-kun make you regret it. Is it over yet? Naruto whined from his present location, making the sleeping Yamanaka who had slumped onto him shift around. It's been hours. All around the box, the genin and their sensei were in various states of consciousness and boredom. He hauled himself up and looked at the two, who, after 2 hours, were still battling. You guys suck. Do something already, he roared. He took another whack from the now sputtering Ino, as well as Sakura, both of whom were angry that their naps had been ruined. Quiet, Naruto-kun. That was such a good nap. Ino stopped halfway through his name to yawn, as Naruto grumbled about not getting any respect. She glared down at her lazy teammate down in the arena. Said teammate felt a shiver run down his spine, and wondered why he felt like someone was dancing on his grave, and he lazily slumped to the side to dodge another blast of wind from an irate Temari. A wind suddenly broke out inside the box, and everyone turned and sweat dropped as Kakashi waved with an eye smile. Yo. Naruto laughed, you're late, Cyclops sensei. And you too, bastard. Be happy that they didn't disqualify you. Sasuke glared daggers at Kakashi, who had to dodge a fist from his irate genin. How much did we miss? He noticed Naruto's new appearance, and the lack of any dirt on his person. Naruto-kun, have you not fought yet? You don't have a scuff on you or any injuries. Don't tell me that you gave up. He got an uncharacteristic look of venom from his usually sunny student. If I did it would be all your fault too, Cyclops. Ebisu? Really? You honestly thought he'd be able to train me enough for Neji? The other Jonin nodded at that. Ebisu was fine for low-ranked genin or academy students, but not for Chunin hopefuls and especially not against a Hyuga prodigy. Kakashi looked at his student in disappointment, and was about to speak up when Naruto cut him off. Luckily for me, I found a real sensei, who actually got me ready for this. I broke my foot off in Neji's ass without getting hit once. Kakashi's eye widened, and Sasuke's jaw dropped slightly. Naruto smirked, yep, and I'm still riled up to fight the princess here. He pointed at Sasuke, who smirked back, well dead last, I'll be looking forward to what did you call it, breaking my foot off in your ass as soon as our match starts. Lightning practically sparked between their eyes as they started the customary pissing contest, completely ignoring everything else. Kakashi turned to his fellow Jonin. How did Naruto win his battle? Kurenai turned from him in disgust, and Asuma merely took a drag from his cigarette, so Guy had to come to his rescue. Naruto's flames of youth burned brightly. Kakashi. Half the people cringed at the volume. He made Neji angry and reckless during the fight, and used a very unorthodox taijutsu style against him, as well as some ninjutsu. He finished and threw a thumbs up, teeth sparkling. Kakashi stared in disbelief. That's all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.